What's happening? What is happening? What's going on? Welcome to another episode of the Inside the Lab live experience. What's going on? Can I get the air horn? What's going on? It's been a while. It's been a while. Listen, it's been a while, but we're here. We're kicking off things with episode 55 of the live experience. Can you believe we done about 55 of them now already? Um, but we got many more to go. And again, I want to give a shout out to Sparta Rules, brother. Sparta Rules in the house. Sparta Rules 1993. It's good to see you, fam. Sparta Rules is a channel member, nonetheless a channel. Let me bring the microphone up a little bit. Nonetheless, a master. So shout out to Sparta Rules for supporting the channel, and to all of our members, whether you're here present or not. Maybe you're on a replay, maybe you're considering signing up to become a channel member. You can find the link in the pinned chat here or down in the description box below for more details. But in today's episode, we are discussing why PC gaming isn't necessarily exactly what you expected here in 2022. There could be a couple reasons why, but most importantly, we're going to go over some of the most pertinent reasons why that PC gaming may have circumvented your expectations. Maybe you had a totally different perspective on what it means to be a PC gamer or to enjoy games on this platform. Maybe you've already made the journey, and now that you've gotten there, things aren't what you may have originally perceived them to be. So we're going to talk about that in today's live stream, and of course go over some ways how you can navigate through those insecurities and how you can still continue to enjoy this platform. Because while the graphics card situation's a hot mess, and they may be hard to find, and we're going to talk about that down the road, so I'm doing a little bit of foreshadowing. And while they may be hard to find, and by hard to find, I mean at widely available at an affordable price, it still shouldn't stop you from or deter you from eventually making your way onto this platform and enjoying games in what we consider here in this community the best way to experience, enjoying games in the best way they are experienced, that is over on a PC. There is a gift and a curse associated with some of those benefits, but the cons or the pros far outweigh the cons. We're going to talk about some of the cons here in this live stream, and of course go over the pros, because you got to take the good with the bad. And for our replay viewers, I want to shout you out to our replay viewers. The replay viewers get a quick air horn. If you have any questions about anything discussed throughout the duration of this live show, please feel free to leave a timestamp down in the comment section below, and I will answer your question directly. Excuse me, or even if it's not directly related to the topic, still very much leave your question. I welcome you to leave your question down in the comment section, and also head over to the description box, what we call the basement, because you will find a lot of helpful links or content that can provide additional context as to what we are discussing today and some of the topics that we may come across, because here in the live experience, it's a very different show. It's a very different format. And so the I guess what you could say is the highest objective, or the biggest objective of the live show, is to create an environment that's engaging for you, the viewer. This is why I leave the live streams up as they are. There, that way there are no significant changes to the actual live stream, and even though you may be watching on a replay, it still very much feels like you were here with us live in effect. So a little bit of housekeeping out of the way, and we're going to jump right into it here as we have more people roll in. I will say, I'm not sure where you may be watching at here on the internet, but over here in the States on the East Coast, it's a beautiful day out. I'm not surprised if the majority of responsible and adults with disposable time and income may find themselves outside, because we're coming off of a bit of a winter sprint, and days like these, or days like this now, come so far and few in between. But it doesn't matter, because I'm a homebody and I'm super introverted, and in the house with a good TV show or playing a good game is the best way to spend my free and disposable time. Which I haven't dived into Dying Light. I haven't played Dying Light a great deal in a while, especially since some of the some of the issues started to surface within the game, and not just technical issues, but just issues in general with the game. Still not a bad game, but I really wish I probably would have waited until it was on sale. But we might do a pop-up live stream and talk about it more with some additional content updates and channel updates here as we progress into the 2022, and I find myself in this studio limbo, if you will, in between sets. So it's all tricky business, but nonetheless, I'm still here. The mission and the message must go on, and we must continue to spread. So if you haven't yet, first and foremost, I invite you to give this stream a like, especially if you are unable to stay for the full duration of the show. Even if you got to pop in, say hello. If you have any additional context you want to add, feel free to leave them down in the live chat here if you're live with us, or if you're on the replay, leave it down in the comment section. All right, you can still very much be a part of the conversation. Sans the conversation, you can still be a part of the live experience, even if you weren't here live with us. So, all right, that out the way. I tell you what, again, we're just going to jump right into it here. I'm going to switch over to my image in my title screen, and that is, speaking of Dying Light is going to be our background guest, if you will, for this live stream. And I felt that that was only appropriate simply because this conversation is so heavily tied around the concept or idea of being a PC gamer. And now, most importantly, the question at hand is, well, we're addressing the question, or the topic, or I guess we're addressing the question, that is why PC gaming isn't what you expected, especially here in 2022. We can even stretch just a bit further back and say PC gaming isn't what you expected, since you maybe tried to get into it or upgrade your system, build a modern system since, say, 2019, because a lot of the issues that the community and our industry, a lot of the issues that we are facing now, they were just as prevalent throughout the last couple of years, throughout the last 2-3 years now, that we are quote unquote surviving the techdemic. And I wanted to do a documentary style piece of content that highlights this, that highlights the what gamers and would be PC gamers have had to endure since the start of the techdemic. We all know why, or what triggered and what sparked the global chip shortage, but little did we know that it would progress this far, and the prices would escalate as high as they have. Now, GPUs, graphics cards, if you will, can be found in stores like Micro Center, but the problem with Micro Center is that they are so far and few in between it. We've talked about this on numerous live shows where some of us may live within walking distance to a micro center, and to some of us it might be quite a ride. I believe it was Tricion who said he has to, buy a plane ticket to go to his micro center. I believe it was a one of our regular viewers here in this community, RTX on or WHD Moves, brother Cliff, said that, he can see Micro Center right from his back door or right from his backyard. He can walk there. And then for me, it's about an hour drive in between the three that I am closest to. It's still very much about an hour drive for myself, either one I'd want to go to. So while it's not far, it's not necessarily close either. And then there still runs the risk or the chance of whatever the graphics card I'm looking for may or not be there unless you buy it and put it on hold and then just go pick it up. That's about your safest bet. But for larger retailers like B&H or Best Buy or many others similar, right? They're just not as widely available. You're still going to see that red out of stock, and you're still going to see that big fat goose egg when you go to try to purchase one of these graphics cards at their respective, MSRP or the price point, whatever that may be. And then the used market is a whole nother conversation because things are still a bit wonky there. For example, I saw an RTX 2080 that was selling for about $950. That's still about 450, maybe 500, about $500 more than what that graphics card should sell for. An RTX 2080 right now on the used segment over the used market should run you no more than $500, 500 USD. We are talking, US currency here, but it shouldn't run you no more than $450 to $500 for an RTX 2080 in terms of performance per dollar, or the price of performance you're going to get out of that graphics card compared to what's available new at a similar price point. So, but that's part of the conversation we're going to dive into. Again, I'm foreshadowing here, but to start with our warm up, I will say that building a PC is, you might think that building a PC is too hard or getting into PC gaming is confusing and expensive. You may have already been faced with these questions and quite possibly more at one point or another, right? And once you've gathered the resources and you found the answers to acquire your system, whether that's you built it yourself or you've gone with a system integrator to build a custom PC for you, that is, you pick out the parts and you have a system integrator built, do all the hard work for you. Or you simply went out and bought a pre-built PC. Once you've got your research together and you've got the answers you were looking for, you acquired your system, you may find yourself hitting an impasse, a roadblock. You may realize that PC gaming isn't exactly what you expected, but there's an outlook over this state of mind. Look at it like a state of mind, similar to the live XC conversation we had. I believe it was a couple weeks ago, about 2 weeks ago. About 2 weeks ago. There's a path onward and over the horizon, a way to get over that mindset, if you will, a light through the darkness, right? But to reestablish your bond within the platform or with the platform with your PC, regardless of preference, build, and budget, that is the light that is in the darkness. That light reestablishes your bond, and rather you have a PC and you're like, well, I just, it's not what I thought it was. It's too hard. It's too confusing. I'm getting a lot of system crashes, or I can't run the games I want to play. Regardless of where you are at in your journey, this live show, we're going to discuss, some reasons why PC gaming isn't what you expected, and of course, how to circumvent that mindset, how to get over that mindset. Because again, the outlook is the path onward and over the horizon, regardless of your preference. That is, build and budget. Did you drop $2,000 on your PC? Did you drop $3,000 on your PC? Do you have a word I don't like using very often, but do you have a potato-esque PC where maybe it's a amalgam of multiple used legacy parts, or it's just a slightly older system, say like an FX build or an older i5, or even quite possibly an i3 system, which with modern games that might not get you as far as you would like or you would hope. But in terms of upgrading, we're going to talk about that. We're going to discuss why, these expectations arise and how to overcome them. That is what we're discussing in today's live stream. And again, if this is your first time here, rather replay or live, I am your host and operator. Let me switch back here really fast. I'm your host and operator of this live experience, Terrence. I'm Terrence. That is, well, got to get the kinks out, y'all. It's been a while since I've been live and within the format of the live experience. But I'm Terrence, your conductor and operator of this here live experience, this here live show, what we like to call a roller coaster, or I like to compare it to a roller coaster. And I am your operator. I am your conductor. I'm the one that's going to get you on the ride and get you off the ride safely. But hopefully by the time it ends, you can take something away from this experience. Whether you are a seasoned vet, a seasoned PC gamer, or a PC enthusiast or user, or you're looking to break away onto the platform or become a PC gamer, right? That is what we are discussing in this live stream. We're going to bounce right back over here. So this is our title card again. We are discussing why PC gaming isn't what you expected. And I'm going to jump into my first take, and that is being a gamer costs more than what you originally thought. This is one of the probably biggest reasons why some people are deterred away from this experience, that is PC gaming. And that's especially geared towards when you are looking at potential upgrades, or you didn't properly do your proper research within your system, and now you have to upgrade a lot sooner than you originally had thought. And I tell you what, depending on what that upgrade is, that can end up costing you more money than you possibly had thought, and what you may have what you may have actually, saved up in your bank or in your wallet. But if you're not installing or changing your hardware yourself, then you also have to find yourself paying someone to do it. That comes along with that, that just adds additional and that just adds to the additional cost of the upgrade. So you may say, well, I want to upgrade my CPU. Okay, well, you have maybe you want to upgrade to an 8-core or a 12th generation CPU. Likely if you're on a newer chipset, or for most of us now, the AM4 socket has, just saturated the PC gaming market. So maybe you want to upgrade to a higher core count Ryzen CPU, or you want to upgrade to a better chipset. Well, if that's a motherboard and CPU swap that you're not comfortable with doing, then you're going to have to not only buy those components, but then you also have to pay somebody to do it if you are uncomfortable with that procedure yourself, with swapping out the motherboard and the CPU. But you have to take into consideration that you can save money by doing it yourself, but if not, then yeah, it's going to cost you more than what you originally thought, being, playing games on a PC. I see we got Brother Cliff is in the house. Brother Cliff gets the air horn. Brother Cliff says, greeting fellow PC gaming tech and gadget gurus. Man, I like that. I like that. Cliff put the super chat on it. I appreciate the super chat. Cliff gets the super
Thanks
chat
for
rap.
the super chat.
Uh-huh.
Now you got a super rap.
One more time, y'all.
Thanks for the super chat.
Uh-huh.
Now you got a super rap.
Thank you for the $5 super chat, Cliff. We do appreciate it. We brought you up earlier, actually, during the live show. We were discussing just how close some of us are to a micro center and how far some of us actually are to a micro center. And we had mentioned that, Brother Cliff is actually within walking distance to a micro center. And then we had some other, like Sparta Rules 1993, I believe is a little, it's quite a drive for him. And Brother Tricion, another longtime member in this community, it was a bit of a drive for him as well, getting to a micro center, as we were talking about the accessibility of newer graphics cards. But we are going to save that segment for a different part of the show. Brother Cliff, thank you for the super chat once again. And you came right into we just started the conversation, and that is being a PC gamer costs more than what you originally thought. All of these takes, you will, or points are underneath of this umbrella that asking the question, or I guess we're kind to addressing, we're kind of addressing the question that is why PC gaming isn't what you expected. The purpose of this episode, let me switch back here because this is important, because the purpose of this episode is to help the uninformed, to be able to share this video with a friend or fam that might be on the fence, or maybe they've lost their steam and they need that fire, they need that spark that gets them interested back into PC gaming. Because yeah, there some of these issues, or some of these pain points, if you will be experienced by a lot of first time users, or users who build their system, or I'm sorry, not users who built their system, but users who may have had somebody else build their system. They likely could run into any one of these points that we're going to highlight and go over. So I appreciate you stopping by, and again, hit the like button for me. For those of you who are unable to stay, I see we had a few people roll in. Hit the like button for me on your way in or on your way out if you're unable to stay. I totally get it, totally understand. It's a beautiful Saturday. We're just kicking, I want to start March off right and get back on to our normal live streaming schedule. I hope to be in the new studio with it at the beginning of April, so that's exciting times. And of course, get back into a normal stream of uploads, like our weekly upload schedule. I also wanted to mention really, really fast here, while I have some of our normals on, we'll get back into the conversation. But even replay viewers, this is good. This is good game for y'all as well. Um, in terms of the build series, because the building is still one of my favorite practices to engage in as a content creator, as a PC enthusiast. Even if you're not a content creator, you might be someone who just likes to build PCs. You may work at a tech shop, or you may do it yourself as a side hustle, or as a personal business. But I like telling stories. First and foremost, I like telling stories. Even before I liked building PCs or enjoyed building PCs on camera, I've always enjoyed telling stories. Now, as a YouTuber, I've had the affordability to do both, right? Like tell stories within the builds we do. So the builds will be coming back, and if they will actually be a part of a ongoing build series with the build, benchmark, and play series, if you will. And of course, with additional like news content and a lot of what many of you have seen here on the channel. But when it comes to builds, I may not do them as often until the graphics card conversation becomes more prevalent, if you will, simply because they're just not as accessible to a lot of different users. And I want to be able to reach the rich, the not so rich, right? Maybe you don't have as much disposable income as the next person. Maybe you can't afford $500-$600 on a graphics card. I want to reach those individuals. So just a quick content update. I'm going to dive more into it in an upcoming pop-up live stream, because I'm not sure if Dying Light 2 is the game to continue focusing around a pop-up live stream series. And I also maybe thought about playing Elden Ring. The Dark Souls games, not my kind of games. I'm kind of super cash, or I like super cash games where I can just jump in and just have some dumb fun and jump out. But Elden Ring might be a game that I not only create some content around, but actually give it a try. I've read some reviews and I'm like, that's heavy, the way you just get dropped into the game like that, and gotta pick it up. And death could be around every corner, or there's adventure on every square inch of the map, right? But Elden Ring is a game I might consider, playing, and you guys and gals can see how horrible I am at it, because I really will probably find myself dying a few times. I haven't played the Dark Souls games, any of the Dark Souls games, or any games from Software. I don't know if I said that right. The developer's called From Software, but I haven't played any games from Software. Elden Ring will be the first one, so maybe I will give that a shot. But I do have a piece of content planned around Elden Ring that could help a lot of users, especially those who may not want to play the game on console and they want to experience it in a higher graphic fidelity, or at a smoother FPS, more than 30. Cliff says, budget bills, Optiplex videos, swap legacy cards out, test swap, okay, I'm sorry. Swap legacy cards out, test swap would be awesome videos. I totally agree, and that's what I want to get back to. To keep it 100, to keep it a buck, brother Cliff, that is what I want to get back to. That is what I originally wanted to build this channel around, is legacy hardware, older cards, finding the value in legacy hardware. I enjoy the new stuff, I really do, but I strongly feel that there's a level of disregard to some of the older components as if they're just not relevant anymore. And we say around here, old doesn't necessarily mean obsolete. It just doesn't, right? And when, we're not going to say if, we're going to say when the graphics card situation does normalize and prices stabilize, when that may be is, of course, is an unknown variable. And I'm going to talk about that in an upcoming video. When that may be hard to deduce, but it's a matter of when, not if. When graphics cards do normalize and stabilize and inventory is adequate for most and many, then I really do see a boom of options on the used market, which would almost instantly spark interest with a lot of budget conscious enthusiasts, which that's actually a that's actually a pretty dope, buzzword, right? Like budget conscious enthusiasts. You could be a budget conscious enthusiast, especially if you're circumventing the used market and you want to take advantage of that new used price to performance, or that used price to performance. They're out there, and those are the individuals we want to reach. Those are individuals we want to bring over to this platform, because they could always start modest and upgrade to something that is along the higher end, right? 12th generation, 10th generation, 11th generation, even 9th generation. If you look at Elden Ring's minimum CPU requirements in i5 8400, excuse me. So you have some options in between there that could enable you to play that game in a much better fidelity, rather that be in the graphics department or in the frame rate department. You have a lot of options in between the minimum and the required to play games like that, and even other modern games. Cliff says testing different budget coolers in such video on turning your grandma's PC into a gaming one. I know they've been done before, but I think a lot of people are searching for stuff like that. And I totally agree. I totally agree. I don't want to just turn grandma's PC into a gaming PC. I want to turn grandma into a gamer. I want to show grandma how she could, right? I want to turn grandma into a gamer, right? Show you how you can you can reconfigure an older system, or you can introduce particular components to improve on a system's functionality, even beyond it being just a gaming PC. This is a gaming centric channel, sure, but at the end of the day, we still focus heavily around PC, PC components, PC tech, right? Or what Cliff called in his super chat, gadget gurus. But I absolutely agree, and that is a lot of what we are going to get back into starting in the middle of 2022, and right around when we get into the when we turn around to the into season 3 of the live experience. We're like right there with season 3 of the live experience, and I have some ideas that's going to come over into the live experience. And of course, we're, the live extended experience, the live XE, is very much in beta. It is for channel members, but all are welcome to first and foremost view it on replay or live. It's an interesting conversation. We aired episode 1. There was a few hiccups though. There were a few hiccups with the publishing of that stream or that video. That was 100% my fault. I apologize to Sparta Rules 1993, brother Anthony, about that, and I told him it possibly could have affected the reach, as YouTube gets tricky with their notifications when they're staggered like that, or there's issues and you try to go live back to back. Chances are they won't notify a lot of your core audience members. So when episode 2 airs, do be on the lookout for that. I love to bring on regular viewers like other channel members like WACD Moves and other viewers here in the audience that might want to come up really quickly and share in their experience as a PC gamer, or whatever the conversation is, because the live XE is heavily centered around community conversation. Brother Cliff says, WASD Move says, I've been tinkering with an i5 3400 quad core and 14 gigabytes of DDR3, swapping cards out in a new PSU, but still people might be surprised what the little guy can do. I throw in a 1660 Ti and a 6500 XT as well, and yeah, it could hold its own. Yeah, and I'm actually surprised that the third generation i5 can keep up with the 1660 Ti, which is still no slouch of a entry level graphics card, and the 6500 XT as well. But so long as those CPUs, have the necessary instruction sets, then yeah, they can definitely hold their own with modern games, especially when you want to play at a higher resolution and you can put the majority of that load over into your strongest component. In this case here, it would be either one of those two graphics cards on the NVIDIA 1660 Ti or the AMD RDNA 2 base RX 6500 XT, which I will say is a graphics card that is underappreciated, underrated, but still has a lot of potential. First and foremost, because they are widely available at micro centers. I would like to see them more accessible in larger retailers like Best Buy and B&H, but I do think we can start to see the tide slowly turn as we move into the middle of the year and restrictions across the globe, all over the world, start to lift. There is the particular issue arising over in Europe that could, affect availability and stock down the road, but we have to take it one day at a time. And Cliff says, "Yep, no bottleneck at all." Okay, good stuff. Good stuff. Definitely. I mean, when you have a bottleneck, you're just leaving performance on the table. So to know that there isn't a bottleneck with those configurations is a good sign that i5 third generation um, still has a lot of juice left in the tank. Like you can't, especially when you can find. It's one thing to buy a motherboard, even used. You might pay a little more than what you should, but it's another to come across that CPU and motherboard and even DDR3 at a bundled price, which a lot of sellers do. They want to sell all of those components all together. It's just easier to flip that way. And then you throw in a capable graphics card, put most of your budget into your graphics card, and updating or upgrading your CPU, motherboard, and DDR, RAM platform, going from say DDR3 to DDR4 could be a much more economical upgrade path, especially for someone just getting started out and you want to start with say a system sub under $1,000 or under 900 USD. Cliff says card stretching 100% usage at 1080p. Good. I like seeing that. Definitely what you want to see. 100% usage with your GPU at all times. At all times. Even on the old 750 Ti and 2GB 760. So 7th generation NVIDIA cards still going strong. That's what I like to see. The prices on the 750 Ti, I haven't checked, but I believe they were going for about $100 to $150 at the time. Last time I looked, still a little higher than I like to see those graphics cards. Maybe between 80 to 100, maybe even $75 is a little bit along the lines of a good price to pay for a GTX 750 Ti. But of course, that could vary depending on where you are located. But seventh generation and 700 series NVIDIA cards, depending on the type of games you want to play and how you want to play them, it starts there, because some games do have VRAM limitations. You could drop your resolution down, but chances are the experience won't be very it won't be very playable to many compared to the alternative. You could still go out and buy a PS4 and, drop in the game and not have to make any necessary changes to the system, and you'll be good to go. But and Cliff says they are cheaper now, so that's good. Maybe we'll jump into not during this live show, but I do have a live stream geared to graphics cards that is coming up. Good stuff. Cliff says, I've been eyeing some 4GB RX 560s. I missed the RX 560 I had, and I wish I never sold it. I wish I never sold it. What are some prices you're seeing them go for, Cliff? Do let us know in the comment section here as I switch back to the first point, and that was, being a PC gamer costs more than what you originally thought. We talked about upgrades. If you didn't properly research your system and you're not the one that's installing the upgrade yourself, then you could find yourself having that added cost to the entire upgrade path that you're trying to embark on. Now, your PC is the foundation of your setup. You have your monitor, your sound solution, your keyboard and mouse, your desk and your chair. I mean, they all assemble to form a representation of you, and they all can have unexpected or even unexpected in terms of maybe you have a component that fails. I was talking to Sparta Rules 1993, helping him with an issue with his system, and at the same time, one of my kids' PC ran into a similar issue, and that's just an unplanned upgrade path. I believe the SSD failed on their system, and so I have to buy a new SSD and reinstall Windows and all that good stuff, and that's just an unplanned, it's an unexpected upgrade path. But now I'm able to say uh, upgrade their storage device in capacity and maybe a faster read or write speed than what they had before. And that doesn't necessarily scale performance. It may help with certain things like faster loading times, faster boot times, but it doesn't necessarily scale performance. But because your PC is the foundation of your setup, it is the one, I guess you could say, variable or the one factor that will affect your overall performance within your system, depending on how you want to upgrade it. And that's why, being a PC gamer, it may cost more than what you thought. And if that's you, do know that, well, all things great have some level of cost associated with them. Owning a vehicle, for example, we often compare owning a PC to like owning a vehicle, right? There's certain unexpected and even planned or regular routine scheduled maintenances you may need to have done on your vehicle, and every vehicle is different in that cost. It may have a roundabout general price threshold or cost threshold, but everyone is very much different and unique onto that particular build and vehicle. Same thing with your system, with your PC being the foundation of your entire setup. It may cost more than you thought being a PC gamer, but your upgrades doesn't necessarily have to come immediately. If you plan your build accordingly, build around the games you want to play, then that cost can be, now you can circumvent that cost. You can upgrade the areas that will introduce the most performance to your experience. It doesn't necessarily have to be, oh well, I have a cooler and I want to upgrade to a newer case, or I'm sorry, I want to upgrade to a different cooler just because. Like if it's not going to lower temperatures or reduce noise or add to the aesthetic of your build, then that's an upgrade you necessarily don't have to make. You can continue to save and put towards, say, upgrading your graphics card. Maybe you come across a graphics card like one of the ones Brother Cliff had just mentioned, the GTX 750 Ti or GTX 760. Maybe you started there for about 100 USD, and now you're ready to upgrade to something a little faster, something with a little bit more VRAM, maybe a GTX 1060 for about 250 to 300 USD. Unfortunately, they're still selling at about that price point. But that is money well spent. It may cost more than you thought, but you accept that cost as a necessary evil, and it will take your experience further, faster. You don't necessarily have to get stuck in that upgrade loop that, well, I need to upgrade to the newest and latest thing every time, or say upgrade your case, unless you like cases. I love shopping for cases. I like looking at cases and what have you, but unless you like those kind of things, then you can put your money in areas that will benefit you the most. That's how you can get around that mindset. Well, it costs more than I thought. I want to upgrade. I want a new PSU. Found one for $50, but I don't want to do it myself. I want to pay somebody else to do it. Now that's going to cost me $100. Well, you can either save money by doing it yourself, right? Or you can hold off on that PSU upgrade unless it's a meaningful one. Unless you're trying to say upgrade your graphics card. Maybe you went from having a PSU that only supports 4 pins, and maybe now you need a PSU that supports 8 pins or 6 pins, depending on your situation. It's not that PC gaming is expensive. It's always been expensive, right? It's not that it costs more than you originally thought. You didn't plan those costs. Plan for those costs, right? If there's an area in your system that you know is lacking, then that is the area you want to focus on upgrading next. Don't make unnecessary upgrades. Cliff with the $2 super sticker. Hey, Cliff gets the
Thanks for the support, fam.
Super sticker rap.
Super sticker from the super fans.
One more time, right? One more time.
Thanks
Hey.
for the support, fam. Super sticker from the super fans.
Gotta love and appreciate that. Cliff says, have a dab, right? Hey, I virtual dab to you as well, brother. As Cliff says, 90% of upgrades I've seen people doing are choice, not necessity. I'm guilty of it myself. Well, I will say there's two things to that. If you have the disposable income, then there's nothing wrong with, in my opinion, with investing in the entirety of your system. Rather, it's a upgrade that is out of choice or necessity. Rather, it's one that you say, hey, because this again can stretch and extend beyond just your CPU, RAM, motherboard, storage. Let's say you want to add a second monitor. Do you need a second monitor? Let's say that second monitor might run you, a couple $100. Do you need that second monitor, or do you just want that second monitor? What is the functionality? What is the purpose behind you wanting to add a second monitor? Is it out of choice or is it out of necessity? Do you want to be able to, say, monitor your system's vitals, or you may have you may have another reason as to why you want a second monitor? Maybe you just want it for show, or maybe you want to buy two of the same monitors and have like a multi-monitor setup. That could be out of choice or it could be out of necessity. If you have the disposable income, then I would say go for it, because you are invested in the entirety of your system at some point. And then like I just want to also add, as Cliff says, 90% of upgrades I've seen people doing are choice. And again, maybe they feel like, well, I have a, if you're going in between Intel platforms, because they're normally only supported 2 generations at a time, then this could just be rather costly for you. If you're over an AM4 socket and say you have a 2600 and you want to upgrade to, say, a 3600 or a 5600X, then that could introduce some level of performance metrics or performance inducing, right? Or you could scale your performance by making that kind of upgrade. Is that out of choice or necessity? It's different if your CPU fails and you had that opportune moment to, say, go from a 2600 and your CPU kind of just kills off or it clunks out, and you say, well, I have this opportunity now. I can go from either a 6-core 3700X or a 3800X or even a 5800X for even more performance. That would be out of necessity. But even if it's out of choice and you want to scale your performance, then that's still a decision that I would co-sign and say, go for it. You're investing in your experience. When it comes to investing in your experience, I'm all for it. As Cliff says, nothing wrong with it. I do think put yourself on the outside looking in as a new PC gamer. One might wonder if that's how it is. Know what I mean? They might think that they need it since they see it often. And that's true. That's true. And this is why the uninformed, right? They should come to us. They should come to well-knowledged individuals in this space who can help them make a firm and educated decision on their choices, whether it's an upgrade out of necessity or one that's just one they wanted to make. If I understand your comment, Cliff. But I agree. I don't think there's nothing wrong with it. Put yourself on the outside looking in, as Brother Cliff said. As a new PC gamer, that's the key. If you're just starting out, maybe you're just ignorant to the upgrade process within itself, right? If your system doesn't have an FPS output that could support, say, a 144 hertz monitor, but you go out and you buy a 144 hertz monitor, that may not be money well spent. Maybe that money should have went to upgrading your graphics card, allowing, or even your CPU, allowing you to have a higher FPS output. And then you can make the upgrade to, say, getting a faster panel, a faster monitor. Then you could also sell your graphics card if that's something you wanted to upgrade to. Always think about repurpose. On a side note, I just want to mention, always consider repurposing your upgrades or repurposing your components to put towards future upgrades or the whatever upgrade that you just made. If it's, say, you went from a 750 Ti or a 760 to a GTX 980 Ti, you could maybe sell your 750 or your 760 to put towards that upgrade. Or if you say, well, I have the money, I can make the buy now and have it on hand, then you can either hold on to that graphics card, that's always a choice too, or you can sell it, put it and let that absorb some of the costs that went into acquiring that GTX 980 Ti. Still very much a formidable card. But let's switch back here. All good stuff, and I appreciate the supers, Cliff, and of course adding to the conversation as always. Keep it going, y'all. Keep it going, and again, hit that like button for me as you stroll in. But we went over how, why it could cost more than you thought. But here's one that's even more prevalent and more common, and that is you are underwhelmed with unlocked or uncapped performance. It's true. It's for some people I've talked to, they say, well, I don't really, there's no noticeable difference in the graphics, or, I play, but it doesn't really feel as smooth, or I still appreciate or prefer the casual approach, and that is gaming on a couch versus, the detail and high FPS or maximum detail in high FPS or in your games. This, someone I knew, former friend of mine, I guess you could say, a former friend of mine told me that, well, even with a higher end system, at the time it was with an 8700K and a GTX 2080 Ti, which would still be considered a higher end system now. Even with that configuration, they still prefer their Xbox One S or their Xbox One versus their computer. And obviously the experience is much better suited on that configuration versus an Xbox One. But there was just something about that casual approach that they preferred that would pull them back to play it on their console. They were underwhelmed, not overwhelmed, but underwhelmed with unlocked performance. It's just not enough for them. Those individuals, you say, well, I don't need 60 FPS or more in my games. I don't need 144 hertz. I don't need ultra settings. I don't need high settings. I can't tell the difference between, medium and high or ultra, or I don't care about ray tracing and Cliff's favorite software, DLSS or deep learning super sampling. And so, you find yourself in this position that two of the biggest reasons why you would want to game on a PC, it's not doing it for you. That is maximum detail in your games, unlocked performance. More importantly, unlocked performance. You can tailor make your experience depending on the game, depending on the type of monitor you use, and depending on the type of gamer you are. You can tailor make the visuals of your game and how they play to your liking. To some, this is a burdening task, and we talked about how don't let in-game settings be the bane to being a PC gamer. Embrace it. It is more of a benefit than a curse. We talked briefly about pros and cons. Some would see that as a con, tinkering with in-game settings and having to change some of the settings to have a playable experience. Some would see that as a con. I see it as a pro, as a benefit. You can choose if you want your detail in your water to be high quality, or maybe you don't necessarily care about the foliage and the water and you want more detail on the models in your game. This could also depend on the type of game you're playing. If it's a game like Dying Light 2, an open world game, which are pretty popular nowadays given the scope and how they're able to put you in that position or immerse you into the story or into the character or into that game. Now, updated visuals, enhanced visuals typically can add more to that, but to some that can be overwhelming and underwhelming, I guess you could say. The strategist 418, it's good to see you. Strategist gets the air horn and says, "What's up, lab? Enjoying the stream so far." Well, what's happening? The strategist 418, it's good to see you. I'm not sure if we had the opportunity of fellowshipping with fellowshipping with you. But welcome to the stream. I'm glad you enjoyed it so far. It's been a while since the live experience has ran, and when I say a while, I only mean like what 20 days or something like that. And while yeah, okay, that may not seem like a long time, given that it's a weekly live show. We've been without a weekly live show for a couple weeks now, but I do appreciate you, strategists, for hanging out. We do go live every Saturday, and that is what we are getting back to our normal routine, our normal programming. Is our live The live experience is a weekly show. TMZ is also in the house. The Mrs. Zombify says, "What's up, everyone? Nice. It's good to see you, TMZ." And the strategist says, "I always use my second monitor, more YouTube streaming, multitasking, and whatnot." Yeah, absolutely. Having a second monitor, as the strategist put, can be a great way to enhance your media consumption. You could be listening to a live stream, right? Like now, which some of you may or may not be, but you could be listening to a live stream while also playing some Elden Ring, or you could look at work on a piece of content yourself on your second monitor, or you could just have the game, have something on that side that can augment your experience. Maybe you want to have Spotify playing, or you want to have Discord playing in the background. Maybe you have a strong Discord community and other friends you play with, and you want to keep the conversation going outside of the game. Having a second monitor could really enhance your media consumption and take your experience to the next level. I've almost recommend it as a upgrade path, so long as you have a GPU that supports multi monitors, then, or you have a CPU with integrated graphics, and you can say run one monitor off your CPU's integrated graphics and run your primary monitor off your graphics card. Um, Certainly approach you could take. Let me get caught up here really fast in the chat. It's good to see. I also want to invite you guys to hit the like button for me. And if you haven't yet, hopefully I will be either entertaining or educational enough throughout the duration of this live show to have earned your subscription here to Inside the Lab. And also consider becoming a channel member. Don't leave yet, but at the conclusion of this live show, you can jump down in the description box below and find more details into becoming a channel member. It always helps and supports the channel in a direct way. But definitely all good stuff. But any questions you guys may have also during this live show, feel free to ask. But it's good to see you, TMZ and the strategist. Thanks again for you guys popping in. We're jumping back over to the conversation here really fast, as we were discussing how that for some, you could be underwhelmed with the prospect of uncapped or unlocked performance. Maybe it's just not enough for you. You look back and you say, well, I paid $1,000 for this PC and I don't see any significant difference in graphics between gaming on my Xbox or my PS4, or maybe one of the lucky ones, and you dropped, a lot of bank on a PS5, or you got one at retail, and you would much rather prefer to say play Elden Ring on your PS5 versus having to go through the nuances of playing it on a PC. But we were talking about how in-game settings can be overwhelming, but it's in Lab's opinions, in my opinion, that it's a necessary evil, especially if you're working with inferior or legacy hardware. Maybe this is something you just have to do in order to capture that playable experience, that magical 60 FPS output that most of us target regardless of our resolution. If you know your system, if you have a firm understanding of your system, and you know that your configuration has the FPS output to say support 144 hertz monitor or 165 hertz monitor at 1080p, that's still very much likely would cause you to jump into your in-game settings and modify a lot of the game settings to be able to allow your CPU to render those frames much faster, because it's less detail that it has to account for and send to the GPU, and that way the GPU can then just render that image much, much quicker. That is the game, y'all. That is the game right there. It really also depends on the type of game you want to play. Is it a Twitch-based shooter? I hate to throw Overwatch under the bus, but I'm not throwing it under the bus. I guess more so using it as a prime example here. But it could be a game like Overwatch, a Twitch shooter like Overwatch, or Apex Legends, games that benefit from high FPS. Or it could be a game like Dying Light 2 that can be played at 60 FPS or more, right? Especially at 1080p. It doesn't really require you to play on a fast panel. And you don't get the benefits that you would say when you're playing a multiplayer game. You want to react and respond much quicker than your opponents. especially when it's a competitive based game, or if it's a non-competitive based game like Destiny. Let me use Destiny as an example. Maybe it's a game that you play with friends, and you just want that fast and fluid experience. Still would require you to possibly jump into your settings and achieve a setting configuration that would be a solid match with your monitor. It's not necessarily a bad thing. Excuse me. It's not necessarily a bad thing, but your in-game settings is a necessary evil. It's just part of the experience. Let me get caught up in the chat here really fast. As Cliff says, off topic, y'all see the new fractal turret size cases and the new Shift X that expands and such. I have not. Part of my ignorance, but I have not. But I will check them out at the conclusion of the stream. Maybe that's something we can bring up in a future pop-up live stream. And the strategist for 18 says, being able to upgrade rather it be necessary or not is something I absolutely love about PC gaming. Yes, yes, yes. I'm able to go back to console gaming as easily just because that alone. I meant to say I'm not. Right. And I totally agree. And I just want to add a quick take on what the strategist is saying, because when I build PCs for a lot of first time users, I see we got Z Fluent in the house. Zion, it's good to see you, Z. What's happening, Z? We're going to get to you in a second, Z, because we got to know, were you able to get the rest of the parts for your system? I know you got your 9700K. Want to know if you got your Z370 or Z390 motherboard and the rest of your components. But most of the time, when I'm welcoming new gamers over to, coming from console to PC, I usually tell them that be prepared that you probably won't touch your console at all probably after you make this switch. Once you go PC, you don't go back to console in most scenarios, unless you're one of those individuals who are just underwhelmed with the prospect of unlocked or uncapped performance, and you just prefer that casual approach to just turning your console on and going into it. But when you look at the prospect of uncapped or unlocked performance as not as a burden, but more as a necessary evil to achieve the playstyle that you want, then you realize that, hey, this isn't as bad. This isn't a burden. This is a gift. This is a benefit. This is something I can do on my console. And especially with upgrading, like the strategist says, when you're able to upgrade when you want, rather it be necessary or not. Like even Brother Cliff brought that up. Some 90% of what he's seen could be from users who made the upgrade path out of choice and not out of necessity. That could still very much be you. Maybe you want to upgrade your CPU cooler. Maybe you want to go from air to water. Maybe you want to go from mid-size to full size. Maybe you want to add some case fans. Maybe you want RGB with your system, right? Everybody loves RGB. Maybe you want RGB RAM. Maybe you want faster RAM, right? Now, how much of that upgrade will introduce more performance within your setup very much depends on the entirety of your setup. But I just want to add that your setup consists of more than just your system. Maybe you want to go from membrane to mechanical, and from a non-gaming mouse to a gaming mouse, wired to wireless, better, just an overall better monitor, maybe a more comfortable chair. All of these upgrades, whether they be necessary or not, is meant as an investment into your system. And that's one of the things I love about PC Gaming 2 strategists. Many of us who are here in this community, Smarter Rules, Brother Cliff at WCD Moves, that's one of the things we talk about regularly here on our content, is that we love the idea of being able to upgrade when we want. Not a matter of if, but when. Rather that's a component that failed or component you want to replace. Rather you want to enhance the performance and you want to supplement your experience, or you want to make aesthetic changes to the entirety of your setup. Maybe you want to add, an LED strip. Even if you're not a streamer, maybe you just want to set the vibe as a PC gamer, because most of us aren't necessarily doing it on a couch. Most of us is doing it on a desk or a table. So maybe you want to set the mood, set the vibe as a PC gamer. Now it's a cost, because that LED strip is going to cost. That RGB strip is going to cost. That RAM with RGB is going to cost. The motherboard with RGB is going to cost. Right? Is it necessary? No. But it's an investment into your system because it's beyond performance, y'all. Remember, your setup is a reflection of your personality, and it's okay to invest in that. It's one of the things I love, love, love about PC gaming. But totally agree, strategist. I too, I haven't played on a console in a very long time. In fact, we talked about that in the Dying Light 2 stream, which it's still a good conversation. I leave it's still up. If you want more inside the lab content, you can definitely find that in the most recent playlist. But that's one thing we talked about in the at measuring the detail in Dying Light 2. That I said once I got on PC, I haven't looked back over on uh over on the console in a very long time. And one of my older kids still play the Xbox. He's a casual gamer, but he still plays Xbox. And I look at him like, man, how do you even play this? It looks like a slideshow to me. I know it's probably 50 to 60 FPS output at 900p, but it's an eyesore for me. It's just not what I'm used to, and I definitely could not and can't play games on the console anymore. I'm desensitized. Okay, I'd rather tweak the settings as much as possible and, get something that's better, an experience that's still better than a console because it's still very much achievable. Like Cliff said with the i5, I believe it's a 3400 and a 1660 Ti, still able to pull its weight and still able to hold up in modern games. Again, so long as the CPU has the modern AVX instruction sets that's required to play most modern games, I say go for it. You'd be surprised at how much juice is left in the tank and legacy components and older hardware, and that's why I want to get back to that because that's where it's at, especially as we shift into availability of the new market or the new segment. The used market is going to grow even larger, in my opinion. There's going to be more people looking to upgrade their graphics card than there are people who are going to be looking for graphics cards. You heard it here first. And Cliff says, Strategy says, Cliff, I haven't seen those. Are they PC cases? I believe yes, they are. And Cliff says, I tried Elden Ring. It's a stuttering mess. So I saw a video that came across my stream that mentioned that it's a mess on PC. That's something I want to look into, but I wonder why that is. It's PC requirements might have something to do with that as well as even as a minimum, you need a graphics card with at least 6 gigabytes of VRAM to even just play the game. And I imagine that's at 1080p low settings, and that's insane. That's insane. It's probably four. It probably pulls at least 4.5. Somewhere between there in terms of VRAM, even at 1080p low settings. So that could possibly be why, at a minimum, it recommends you have at least 6 gigabytes of VRAM. But even better for me to pick up the game and try it and test it on older hardware. Not older. Remember, I do not like saying older hardware. Legacy hardware. Z-Flow says, yes, I got all of my components except for my GPU. I'm getting it this week. Matter of fact, watching you on my new PC right now. Oh, nice. Hey, man, congratulations. Let me give Z-Flow a round of applause. It's been a while. Z-Flow has been trying to get into PC gaming. Whether you have a dedicated GPU or not, welcome, welcome, welcome to the club. And what GPU do you plan on getting? Do let us know. Do let us know. But good stuff, Z Fluent. And the strategist says, I would only go back for very specific exclusives on console, but that logic is getting more and more mute with PlayStation first party and Xbox first party on PC. Is insane. And I believe I was talking to a member here in the community. I believe it was Sparta Rules. And I said, what is Sony waiting for? Sony needs to come out with a launcher. Sony comes out with a launcher, I will gladly pay, 60 bucks for their exclusives. Some of their exclusives have, bled over to the PC. Not all, but, and God of War took a little while getting there, much longer than I would have wanted because I had watched like a YouTube video of just, um, of just like the story of the game with all the spoilers. And I much would have preferred to experience the game, but I wanted to get caught up on the story for Ragnarok because I am a fan of the God of War franchise, and when I did have a PlayStation, it was one of the games I look forward to the most. But Sony needs to come out with a launcher so that we can experience all their exclusives or all their games And of course, with the Xbox Game Pass, which I really, really love, I wish Microsoft come on, and I need to reach out to them. They need to pay me to talk about that, because it's one of the reasons why you necessarily wouldn't even need an Xbox if you're ready to make that shift over. But you say, but I still want to play Xbox exclusives. You can. You can play all the Xbox exclusives over there. It's not an issue. But yeah, once you look at, like, excuse me, Sony exclusives, you need a PS4. And I've always said to this day that one of the reasons why Sony could be reluctant to launch a launcher, launch a launcher, and oh man, I wish I had the womp 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 sound effect. But one of the reasons why Sony could be reluctant to launch or have a dedicated launcher on a PC is because they realize that many people like myself, I won't buy a PlayStation. Even like the strategist said, sometimes I'll go back for exclusives. There would be no reason to even have a PS5 unless you want it for other media purposes, like just casual living room, and uh, just like enjoy movies and things like that you don't want to do at your desk. Maybe you only want to do it on your sofa. But even then, that's an expensive media device. But if it only boiled down to playing exclusives, Sony exclusives on the PC with a launcher, I'm there, fam. I'm there. I'll pay $60 for a game. I sure would. Day one. Someone said Thor Ragnarok, God of War Ragnarok. Day one, I'm there. Days Gone 2, if it comes. Day one, I'm there. Not it come over to the PC months or even some cases years later. No, day one, it's available and it's accessible through the Sony launcher. I would do it. I'd be there. But then there again, yep, there would be no reason to buy a PlayStation. I would just download them over on a PC, and that is what I would recommend for a lot of different PC users. Would just say, hey, you missed the Sony exclusives, download the launcher. You can buy and play any Sony game that is available on their launcher. It's coming. I really think Sony is getting with the times, and we could see a potential Sony launcher here coming in the near future. I'm not sure why Sony hasn't taken advantage in a weird way of the silicon shortage and the lack of available PS5s, because with the PS4 being almost 10 years old now, and a lot of people running their games on better hardware, it would make sense to have introduced a launcher, even if it was in beta and only had some exclusive games during this serious drought, and that way they could at least still recoup some of their cost and through exclusive games. So, but we will see. And Cliff says it's an engine shader caching issue, not hardware at all. It's been confirmed from software, I believe. Okay, so hopefully we need to keep a lookout for a patch. It's a shame that we have to even say that in nowadays, but hopefully a patch will fix that. But that's something I will look at, because earlier in the stream I talked about playing Elden Ring. It's not my kind of game. I probably will suck at it really hard, y'all. So get your laughs and your jokes ready now, okay? But that's something I want to visit, especially with legacy hardware. And Zfluent says I might get the RX 580, good choice, 8 GB, or the GTX 1060, preferably 6 GB, not 3. Also a good choice, especially with the 9700K. You're going to really enjoy that GPU with either one of those GPUs with that CPU. Zfluent. Definitely keep us posted, and let me know what's your experience once you get your graphics card and you're ready to take your experience to the next level, fam, and you're able to play play your games in better detail. I'm not sure what you play, Zfluent. I believe you play games like Fortnite, Minecraft. I could be wrong. But the beautiful thing about PC gaming is, just because those are the games you prefer to play now doesn't mean that those games, you can't expand your catalog or expand your library and play more games, especially when you have the necessary GPU and CPU configuration to run those. And Sparta Rule says because they're still making money regardless if PS5 is in hand of a gamer or a scalper. True, but the problem is there aren't enough around to go to the majority of people who actually want them. So, and because Sony can't say ramp up production is very much slow due to there's so much demand for semiconductors. Sony can't say start making more PS5. It's still very much a slow crawl. In fact, I haven't seen a PS5 in a store in a retail store, and I normally check when I'm going into like Targets, Best Buys, and Micro Centers, I will check, and I haven't seen a PS5 or an Xbox Series S or X in a retailer. I have seen Xbox Series S's online where you can, buy and order it from Amazon, but not like in store. Um, but I understand the analogy. It's the same thing with NVIDIA graphics cards. While they're making these, they're getting a sale if they're selling the PCB to an add-in board vendor, right? Like a MSI or Gigabyte. But the problem is the profit margin is slim compared to what the scalper is going to make or have made. Because while prices are starting to come down, if y'all remember a year ago, they were ridiculous. They were high. I mean, we're talking about $800 for a GTX 1060, $700 for uh, an RX 580. Prices were through the roof. And these are older cards. So AMD in their Radeon division, Nvidia has already made their money off selling those cards years ago. They don't get anything from the secondhand sale of that. But now people who had those graphics cards, they could sell them for twice as much as what they're worth. Sometimes 2.5 times as much as what they're worth. And AMD and Nvidia won't see any of that. Much like Sony and Microsoft won't see any of these scalp prices where you go look for a PS5 now and it's selling for about $900 to $1,000. And I think normal MSRP on the PS5, the disc version, what, $600, I believe, $700. But yeah, I mean they still see the money. I mean AMD and Nvidia both has reported, revenue, all-time high revenues, higher than ever, but it's come at the expense of consumers. And the strategist says, "Yeah, I feel that they should do a launcher. I'm waiting on Uncharted Lost Legacy on PC, one of my favorite PS4 games. Yes, mine too. I love the Uncharted series. I don't know about the movie though. I don't know if any of y'all seen the movie. Let me know if you seen the movie. We don't talk pop culture here, movies and what have you. But uh, I knew the movie was not going to be great once I saw who was cast in the lead, in the lead roles, in Nathan Drake, and even my guy Sully. Once I saw his Marky Mark and the Funky Bunch Wahlberg, come on, fam, like to play the role of Sully? No, 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 no. And then Tom Holland, great actor, right? Great actor. Nothing against him and his acting prowess, but not necessarily the role or who I would see could fill the shoes of a Nathan Drake. He's just so young looking. But I love the Uncharted series. I really did. I played them all. And I enjoyed them all. I mean, those were great games. Those are games that, in The Last of Us, for example, I remember playing The Last of Us. I bought the Game of the Year edition, the like enhanced edition at the time, and that game was great too. That game was great too. I don't think I would necessarily like The Last of Us 2, but The Last of Us 1, great PS4 game. Sony has a lot of great exclusives too, which is another reason why, yeah, come on, put the launcher on PC. Put the launcher on PC. Let's enjoy these games in maximum graphic fidelity, ultra wide, native 4K, unlocked frame rates and what have you. Let's enjoy the games over there. And Cliff says, I'd say they are actually losing money. As long as that system stays in the hand of a scalper, the scalper is not buying any games for it. So until it gets to the end of a gamer who buys, that's a very interesting point, because you're right. Sony and Microsoft, a good I guess portion of their revenue pie is heavily focused on microtransactions and subscription models. It's one thing to sell the console, but they want to sell you PlayStation Plus. They want to sell you, their exclusive games. They just don't want you to buy the console. The console is the catalyst to get you to spend more money on your games. But you're right. If it sits in the hand of a scalper and not a gamer, then that scalper won't do anything with the system other than try to make about 40 to 50% more on top of what they paid for it. And that's really put Sony and Microsoft in weird places, and even AMD and Nvidia with graphics cards, new graphics cards. Used is a separate argument. If you had a GTX 1060, or I sold one of my GTX 1070s right before the tech demic hit us, and I've been calling it the tech demic, but I sold one of my GTX 1070s right before the tech demic happened, and I sold it for about $200. That was a good deal. because they later were going for like five. Was it worth 500? Most likely not. Right? The value is in the graphics card being available because at one point there just wasn't enough silicon for them to even produce any graphics cards at all. So the used market is where a lot of people were heading towards to just find a graphics card, especially for those individuals who had unfinished systems, and they needed that central piece to complete their build. Especially if you weren't fortunate enough to say like Z-Fluent, your Z-Fluent CPU has integrated graphics. So you could get your video display out. Maybe you can't do any serious gaming, maybe, 720p or lower, quite possibly, in games like Roblox. Hey, I said it right, y'all. Roblox or Minecraft, maybe even. Maybe you're limited to games like that. But for serious gaming, you wanted to add a dedicated video card to the mix. That way you can introduce, more graphically demanding games and get more detail out of your games. And Cliff says, sitting in the end of the scalp, yep, he's not going to be buying PlayStation Plus. Right. And I know I just touched on that a lot a couple seconds ago, but you're absolutely right. They won't necessarily buy they won't buy into some of the other models that Sony is looking to make money off, the market from users who buy a PS5 and Sony as well. From users who buy a Xbox Series SX. Now, they still do have the Xbox Game Pass as a subscription model over on PC. One of my favorite subscription models because I do play a lot of Microsoft exclusives, Gears of War, Halo. Excuse me. They just, they bought other studios now, so we could quite possibly see other exclusive games make their way over to there first and then branch out to other platforms. So it's an interesting time. It's an interesting time to be a gamer. And I also want to add, sorry if I feel stuffy, but I somehow came across a chest cold over the past couple of days. And of course, I couldn't bring it to my heart to reschedule the dang on live stream again. So I took some medicine, could be wearing off. So if I sound stuffy, that is why. But nonetheless, I am going to power through this conversation because I miss y'all way too much to have scheduled the live stream again another week, and I really want to get back into our normal weekly routine here for the month of March. That is our live shows every Saturday for the uninformed. But all good stuff, y'all. Appreciate you adding to the conversation. Keep it going. Once again, if you're here on the replay and you made it this far, let me know if you have any questions about anything discussed throughout the duration of this live stream. Feel free to leave it down in the comment section below. But we were talking about in this particular take, we said that, many users could be underwhelmed with the prospect of uncapped or unlocked performance. They don't see no noticeable difference in the graphics. They prefer casual gaming or couch gaming versus the option of having maximum detail and high FPS in your games. And they look at in-game settings as a burden and not something that they want to touch or get into. I say again, this boils down to doing your due diligence and your research. That running just like in the first take we had, where we said it costs more than you originally thought. It really starts with your doing your due diligence and proper research, right? Research. Base your build and your budget around the type of games you want to play. If you know you're into like slow burn games like Dying Light or Skyrim, then you really don't need to invest in a 144 hertz monitor or have a super fast CPU. You kind of want to put more stock into your graphic department. That way, regardless of the type of game you want to play, you at least check off the minimum required component in the graphics department, right? And that is your video card. Your video card, I think AMD Ryzen G base, AMD AMD Ryzen CPUs with integrated graphics. They've come a long way, but still, for any serious gaming, you're going to want to add a dedicated video card. Don't look at in-game settings as a burden. Look at it like a necessary evil. Okay, the graphics could be subjective, right? What may look good graphically to me may not be the same case for the strategist or Cliff. What may be a game, or Sparta Rules 1993 may want to play his games at a higher FPS, right? Me personally, I play my primary monitor, not now because I've downsized in space, but not before it was my ultra wide. Now I'm on a 4K monitor, but it was my ultra wide. I preferred all my games at 3440 by 1440p at 100 hertz, regardless of the type of game. I knew that I don't play competitive. If I play Fortnite, it's for fun. I don't play games like Overwatch, although it seems like a great game. I don't play games like Overwatch. But in games like Fortnite, I don't mind playing casually. And in games like Skyrim and Cyberpunk, Cyberpunk, bless your heart, Cyberpunk. But games like Dying Light 2, those are slow burn games. And I don't need a high FPS as the game isn't moving or doesn't necessarily require me to have fast and fluid movement to enable me to take advantage or get the most out of the game. I like playing, slow burn games. So I knew 100 hertz was right around the ballpark for probably the majority of games I wanted to play. I also knew that I had to have a beefy graphics card solution to pair with that monitor, as there's more pixels to render or to account for in that extra aspect ratio, that 21:9 aspect ratio that is beyond the standard 16:9. So I knew I needed a beefy graphics card. That way it could actually take advantage of the real estate and, of course, all of that additional detail. That is why it starts with the type of games you want to play. If you do your proper research, okay, base your budget on the type of games you want to play. And then you won't necessarily be underwhelmed with the prospect of unlocked or uncapped performance, but you would be overwhelmed with the potential of, say, well, I could have high detail in the models, low detail in terrain. Maybe I don't necessarily care about terrain. I don't care about water, so I could turn the detail down there, and then that would give me more FPS overall. Or I put my interest in areas that would make the game more suited for me. Everybody's playstyle is very different, but graphics are subjective, and what may be detailed to me may not be, detailed to you, and that's perfectly fine, perfectly okay. It just really depends on, how you want to experience your games. So we talked about, being underwhelmed with unlocked performance could be a possible reason why PC gaming isn't what you expected, because you're just like, hey, well, I didn't really expect to be able to, choose whether I want to play at 60 FPS output or 120 FPS output, or I don't really care about ultra settings. I don't see a difference between ultra, high, and medium settings. That also too could depend on the type of game you want to play. Shadow of Tomb Raider is one of the ones that come to mind, because I like how in the setting menu you can, as you change the graphic settings in Shadow of the Tomb Raider, you could actually see the changes being made in the foreground to the actual game. As you change shadows, as you change details, some foliage is taken away, some shadows are taken away. You can notice the shift in detail. So it's not something you should be burdened by. It's something you should approach wholeheartedly and look at as just a part of, or just like I mentioned earlier, a necessary evil to being a PC gamer, and to achieve the level of detail and how smooth you want your games to play. Are you okay with playing Cyberpunk on between 40 to 50 FPS average? If you could play it maxed out, everybody is different. When I play Skyrim, me personally, I like to try to max out the games as high as possible and still be somewhere close to my monitor's refresh rate. But I do like to, maxing my games out. Here recently, although I do most of my gaming on an RTX 3090, I haven't really had to make that change or make that shift. But some games, like Cliff mentioned, like Elden Ring, just aren't as optimized out of the gate, and there are just some, issues that are beyond your that are just beyond your scope of hardware, right? It extends beyond your hardware, limiting your experience. It's something that you have no control over. That would be from software. So we'll hopefully see it from software. On a side note, introduces some performance. It fixes that issue with the patch. Pamela Moorhead's in the house. It's good to see you, Pamela Moorhead. That that happens to be my mom. So hello, mom. Good to see you here on the chat. And well, we're going to, on that note, let's segue into my next tape, because this is one that I suffered from when I first got into PC gaming, and that is too many games and not enough time to play. And this could lead to a lack of interest, because PC gaming requires you to spend time with your setup even when you're not using it, or when you're not gaming. It's beyond like a console. Console you can turn on and off, walk away. but your PC will require regular maintenance, right? And if you need some tools, if you're interested in say, hey, well, what kind of tools should I need? We did a very, very deep dive conversation into some of the best PC tools you should have under 20 USD. You can find that in the season 2 of the weekly live experience playlist. But we covered a lot of different tools you could, you need to have in your arsenal as a PC gamer, because it's true, you will spend a lot of your time with your setup even when you're not gaming. So, and maintenance extends beyond just replacing faulty hardware or components, right? We talked about um, some upgrades being out of choice or some being out of necessity. This can very much depend, but it extends beyond just replacing faulty or hardware parts. You may need to clean the dust out of your system. You may want to rearrange your cable management, right? Uh, Keeping your OS up to date, drivers, chipset, and other essential updates. I mean, they all require dedication and due diligence. If you find yourself with you find yourself in this mindset where, there's too many games, and I just don't have enough time to play. And I want to play Elden Ring. I want to play Dying Light 2. This is me. I'm preaching to the choir, is what they call right now. Because you may find yourself wanting to play all of these games, but you don't have enough time because your system is also going to require you to spend time with it outside of just playing games. Big shout out to mother-in-law, right? Like, the mother-in-law gets the air horn. Mama Moorhead of Sparta Rules 1993 put it. That's Mama Moorhead. That's funny. Yeah. Yep. Big shout out again. Mom Dukes gets the air horn, showing up and supporting the stream with her time. Appreciate you, Mom. But I find myself in this situation. Too many games, not enough time to play. I also have to dedicate a significant portion of my time to maintaining my system, keeping the OS up to date, any necessary BIOS updates or changes, chipset drivers, right? And that could affect things like video, your USB, other areas of your system, right? Like you will find yourself spending more time with your system. Not more time. I don't want to say more time, but you will find yourself spending a considerable amount of your time not gaming. When you're a PC gamer, right? And one of the reasons why it's not what you expect is because you find yourself having to spend time with your system when it's not on. It's the best way to put it. You have to spend time with your system when it's not on. But again, everyone gets 24 hours in a day. What's done in that time period will depend on you. Getting into PC gaming right now, though, takes half the effort but costs twice as much. Very important. It takes half the effort. It's not as hard as it was 10, 15 years ago to get into PC gaming. You have a lot especially with the AM4 socket, you have a lot of different entry points that you could dive into, and we really believe Ryzen has had an effect on that with shifting Intel's prices and even Ryzen affecting the used market. But it takes half the effort, but it costs twice as much to get into PC gaming. But everybody gets 24 hours in a day. Excuse me. That depends on, what type of games you want to play. Historically, I've always had this. Let me switch back here really fast, because historically I've always only really liked to play one game at a time. When we played Alien Isolation during the pop-up live stream, that was the only game I was playing. Right now, that's Dying Light 2, but I have several other games in my back catalog that I need to catch up and I want to play. Games like Dying Light 2, or not Dying Light 2, I'm sorry, Days Gone and Halo Infinite, because I do have the Xbox Game Pass. So there's tons of games over there I like to play, and I just don't have enough time. Now my situation is very different because I work full time. I'm a full time parent, and I also have my side business being a content creator. So I literally have to dedicate what I want to spend those 24 hours in a day that I mentioned that everybody gets, that I said that will depend on you. Maybe you're a little on the younger side and you don't have those obligations. Maybe you're a student, or you don't have children, and so you want to you could spend your time, you have more leeway in doing the things you want to do and how you want to spend those 24 hours in the day. Me, it's not that I don't find a lack of interest as a PC gamer because I have too many games and not enough time to play. I think it really comes down to time management when you are an individual like myself who really has to focus on the things that are important to you. So if you work 8, 9, 10 hours a day, then you might want to spend time with your children. And you say, hey, phew, all right, at the end of the day, I have about 5, 6 hours. What do I want to play? Or do I need to maintain my system? Um, do I want to, update Windows? Do I want to make that upgrade that's been sitting over there in the corner? I mean, what you decide to do on that time really depends on you, the individual, you, the person. Let me caught up in the chat here really fast before I lose my train of thought. As I see Cliff again with the $2 super chat, and of course, Cliff says hello, Lab Mom. Lab Mom, that's funny.
Thanks for the super
Cliff
chat.
gets a super chat rap one time.
Now you got a super rap.
Hey, again, supers are always appreciated, no matter the amount, big, large, or small. They contribute all, always. One more time.
Thanks for the super chat.
Uh-huh.
Now you got a super rap.
Hey, shout out to you, Cliff, for the supers chat. I appreciate it. Pam, I better not say Pam. Lab Mom, I like Lab Mom. Mama Moorhead, Lab Mom. Lab Mom says hello to Cliff, and Strategist says emulators definitely add to this as well. Not to mention PC doesn't go by generations. Yes, that's true. It's that running joke that which PC? Oh, I have a PS4. What do you have? PC2? No, fam, we don't go by generations and as a platform. If anything, we go by series, if you will, but not generations. And like strategist says, you could play any game you want at any given time, no matter what parts are in your system, especially when you're running emulators because they're not as graphically demanding. But when you have a robust system, a well thought out system, that's absolutely positively true. You have more options at your disposal than you would if you have inferior hardware. And again, you could even still be on legacy hardware. Some would consider, Zfluence 9700K and RX 580. Is that a newer system? By any stretch of imagination, no, it's not. But is it a well competent system? Absolutely. Can it handle games like Elden Ring? Sure. Will it, play 1080p max settings, 60 FPS? Not necessarily, but could Zfluent find that balance? Again, not looking at the prospect of unlocked or uncapped performance as a burden, but something to embrace. Yes, because even that system checks off all of the requirements to even run that game. So you can trickle right on down and you can still play games like Dying Light 2. You can even go back further. You can play games like Destiny. You can catch up on your backlog and play Dark Souls 2. And I'm having a brain freeze here with other games, but you get the point. Go over to Steam and go based off of popularity. You have a lot of different choices when you have a system that is well conceived, and you do your due diligence and you put proper thought into what's going inside of it. Put proper thought of what's going inside of it and what you can get out of it has there's no end. Okay. You have a lot of different options you can rock with, a lot of different games you can play. It's not necessarily about, there's too many games and not enough time to play. Reverse that. There's enough time to play and I have enough time and there's just too many games to play. But depending on your financial situation, if you could buy them all at once, go for it. You could buy and install later if storage is an issue. You know what I mean? It depends on you as an individual, your financial situation, and how much time you have. And Mrs. Maya says that is awesome, much appreciated. Absolutely. Shout out to Cliff once again for the super chats. Cloud Zazzy is in the house, says, yo, what's up? You should add where it can tell you how much you have donated. That would be really dope. It's good to see you though, Cloud. Cloud Zazzy is in the crib, is in the house. I remember I did a freestyle for Cloud. I can't. I've been because I'm dealing with this congestion and this cold, y'all. I'm in no singing or rapping mode, but maybe when we air next weekend, when we air episode 56, maybe we'll do some games or I'll rap and sing for likes. Which again, if you're just now joining us, which if you have, I know Mama Lab, I need you to hit the like button for me as well, Mama Lab. Clouds as you hit the like button for me, y'all, on your way in or your way out. Like this video. Let's get it out in front of as many eyes as possible here on the replay or live right now. And while most of you, I hope and know, are subscribed, if you're not, hopefully I will be entertaining and educational enough to have earned your subscription. I don't want you to subscribe just because I asked you to. I should have earned your subscription. It takes less than a second, but when you share this video out to friends and fam, which I really hope a lot of you do, share this video out on your socials and share it with somebody who you think it could help or benefit. That's the goal. Once they come across this piece of content, hopefully I am entertaining and educational enough for them to have earned their subscription. At some point, I have been entertaining and educational enough to not only earn y'all subscription, but to keep y'all subscription, to keep you subscribed here to Inside the Lab. But I'm not sure if you can. I know you can do it with, I believe, Cash App, which I don't promote my Cash App. It's down there in in this little media bar here is what I like to call. But I don't necessarily promote it. And you could also see Patreon. That's just a little future Easter egg. As we try to get channel memberships off and going. And before I push Patreon, I wanted to try to develop a a meaningful YouTube membership program before branching off to Patreon. But the Cash App, I don't necessarily promote a lot, I guess is where I'm getting at. And I know you can add that with Cash App, but I'll look into if I can add that like a super chat counter, if you will, in real time. I'm not sure if there's a widget. I know it's not on YouTube's back end, so I'm not sure if there's a widget or something you can add to that, but all good stuff, Cloud. And it's good to see you, Cloud. Always good to see you. And Mama Lab, I keep wanting to say Pam or Pamela. It just sounds weird. I mean, that's my mom. It just sounds weird saying Pam. So when you ever say Mama Lab, that's what I'm talking to. Pamela Moorhead is my mom. She's in the chat. And of course, Mrs. Ma, shout out to our moderator dropping the Cash App. Whenever, I mean, that's just one way to support the channel when I'm not live with you. Of course, supers are available so long as there's a piece of live content up before it airs or while it's airing. But if you want to support the channel, it could be 12 o'clock at midnight. So I want to send Lab $5. Any and all amounts help in a really large way. I'm on what I guess you would say a 5-year journey to becoming a full-time content creator, and I'm in year 2.5. So I got a lot of work to do, but any and all amounts help in a really big way, especially as I blend the model with what I do, servicing and building computers for people locally into the content. But it's good to see you, Cloud. And I see Mama Lab says I did already. I hope that means you subscribed, Mama Lab. I hope you should have been subscribed though. What? Oh man. I wish I had that Charlie Brown fail. Right, y'all? Come on. Mama Lab should have been subscribed. How long have we been running the channel, Mrs. Watt? How long has it been? April 2019, I believe, or 2018. We started creating somewhere along that. But it's all good nonetheless. I appreciate every single one of our subscribers. We are slowly on the path to 4,000, and that's awesome. I never thought I'd be in that position to be worthy enough to create content for some dedicated 4,000 people who have found the content interested enough to hit subscribe and come back to it. And of course, keeping the live show consistent and on a normal schedule will also help us get more live viewers into the live experience. And shameful plug once again though, but consider becoming a channel member so we can have more participants during the live XE. That's the live extended edition. But consider becoming a channel member, and even quite possibly a master. It is pricey, but do know that it's a big part of my model to being a full-time content creator and just creating meaningful and impactful content for members of the community, for viewers like you. As part of rules, but they fail, right? There you go. Like, oh, but Mom Duke said I did it a long time ago. So okay. I stand corrected. But let's jump right in. All good stuff, y'all. I appreciate you keeping the conversation fast and fluid. Again, hit the like button for me on your way in, and subscribe for our replay viewers if you're not subscribed yet. However you came across this content, I have shared it over on Facebook, and I don't normally promote the Facebook as much, but I will start posting content over there as well, in case Facebook is more of your forte and not Twitter. I prefer Twitter, right? But if Twitter isn't your isn't your wheelhouse, then we're over on Facebook as well, so you can stay updated with all things Inside the Lab over there, especially as we branch off to other platforms. For example, I'm currently rebranding the Twitch. I did a community poll to kind of just kick the wheels a little bit to see if there's any interest and intrigue. The content over on the Twitch channel will be super different, and it'll start out with when I set up the new studio. I would like to give you a live, I guess, a live experience on that process over there. So a little bit of Easter egg. Just keep on the lookout, be on the lookout for. As Mama Laugh says, I just pop in every now and then. Right? Well, I hope you hit the live when hit the live. I hope you hit the like when you do. But let's jump back here. We were talking about, too many games and not enough time to play. I said reverse that. You don't have you have enough time but not enough games. Keep your catalog, diversify your catalog, and that way if you are bored or uninspired with one particular game, branch out. Play something a little bit more meaningful. Play something that's going to want not necessarily pull you back to it, but that's on your mind even when you're not playing it, to where it makes you consider like, hey, I think I wanna go from 16 gigabytes of RAM to 32. I think I want to play this game in 4K, right? Those are the kind of thoughts that should run across your head. That is when you're able to diversify your catalog. That's how you get around this mindset. Diversify your catalog. Don't get bent up on playing any one particular type of game. Play Red Dead Redemption 2. You get tired of playing the open world game, jump into some Destiny with your friends. I'm not a big community gamer, but a lot of people are. I prefer slow burn, single player games. If I play Fortnite, it's usually with people I know, or when we jump into community, when we play games with the community, other multiplayer games, I normally would want to play it only with our audience, our YouTube community here. But for me, that's single player games. I love playing single player games, and I typically would run out of time before I get bored with the game. Dying Light 2 being an exception, I will add here really fast before we jump into the next point, and that is I don't necessarily say I got bored with Dying Light 2, but I will say killing zombies in melee style fashion has gotten old faster than I thought. I have unlocked some range weapons, but even then, I find myself running around the zombies. They more so feel like obstacles than they do, non playable characters to interact with. Right? I just want to avoid them as much as possible because it feels laborious to clear out the zombies if it's not a part of the story. The chase aspects are still fun, but I just more so see myself trucking through the game. I believe uh Techland said the game has 500 hours or some crazy number, and I just can't see me playing the game for that long. Maybe 100 hours trying to do all the side quests, but killing the zombies in this fashion has gotten old very fast. So I will say I will pivot games before I will get bored in them, right? And that's still not a big enough reason to say, well, as a PC gaming isn't what I expected because there's just too many games and not enough time to play. But diversify the type of games you want to play, and if you get bored with one, you can hop over to the other. Or if your friends and fam aren't available to play the multiplayer games with you, then you can always go to like a single player game. So diversify your catalog. Again, everybody gets 24 hours in a day. What you do with that depends on you. Now, the next point I like to highlight. This is something we talked about earlier in the live stream, right? Like Brother Cliff mentioned, and a few others have mentioned this as well. But you can be lost and turned out. Essentially, that the not doing proper research or lack of preparation and research. This often leads to, say, confusion overload, not knowing what motherboard and CPU to upgrade to or which combo is best suited for your needs. This could also lead to, say, performance hindering mistakes or misappropriated parts of your budget, which can't be avoided. For example, let's say, you went with a 6 core, 12 thread Ryzen CPU, and then you went out and bought a 360 millimeter AIO. Or maybe you bought a locked CPU that's like a 9K Intel based CPU. Let's say you bought a locked CPU, but you have a robust CPU cooling solution. You won't necessarily get the most out of that cooler because your CPU will only boost up to a certain level. It won't be able to, or a certain clock speed. It won't be able to extend beyond that. Um, And then, of course, needing to upgrade or repair your system, but not knowing where or how to start. This could leave you reluctant to do so. Most importantly, not enhancing your experience. And that is the key here to this point, or this take of lack of preparation and research, is that if you don't know where to start, you don't know how to start, or you made a mistake with your build, then you're just reluctant to make any changes. And then you will not be able to improve or enhance your experience. You won't be able to level up your experience. You won't be able to get either more detail out of your games or more FPS out of your games, simply because you don't know where to start. You haven't done, your proper research, or you didn't prepare your build, your system appropriately. You didn't hire me. You didn't hire Inside the Lab to consult with you before you even bought your first component, which is something we say around here in this community. Your first component should be your monitor. The first component you buy should be your monitor. It all starts there. The monitor is the window to your PC's soul. I've said it so many different times on so many different pieces of content, but your monitor is a window to your PC's soul. It really does start there. It starts there. That your monitor will only output, you know, the the maximal performance your system is able to output. So it'll only display that. It'll only display whatever, the maximum effort of your system. So it should start there. Do you need a 1440p 144 hertz monitor, or could you start your experience off with a 1080p 60 hertz monitor because you only want to play a specific kind of game or type of games, or maybe you're not as competitive centric and you want to play a lot of different kind of single player games. Maybe you're still casual, but you want a better casual experience than a console, so you necessarily don't need a higher end monitor, because the faster the response time, or the lower the response time, and the faster the refresh rate, the more money you're going to have to shell out for that. But you also want to make sure your system is still very much capable of, taking advantage of your monitor's refresh rate and response time. Let me see. Let me get caught up in the chat here really fast. As Cliff says, I finished the story of Dying Light, and I feel you. 314, I feel you. It started to drag. I think it took me 24 hours or so, maybe a little longer. It's on my Steam profile. I'll be right back. All right, so while Brother Cliff comes back, I'll say I totally agree, because I find myself, if the side quests don't improve and the type of enemies you face, I'm like, I don't know if I want to continue to do this. I just want to get through the story at this point. I didn't have that same feeling with Dying Light 1. Let me switch back here really fast. I don't know if it's because I enjoyed the gunplay too in Dying Light, and I think that's strongly missing in Dying Light 2. I know there's a story reason, it's mentioned in the story as to why there are no firearms, and they try to say, oh well, so much time has elapsed since the Haran flu or the Haran virus has affected the world, but there's other resources available, like gas and running water, that shouldn't, for infrastructure that has been ignored for 15 years or more. In fact, one could argue that you could still fabricate ammo for weapons, even if it is crude and time consuming. Just this idea of, well, it's been 15 years, so there's been no manufacture of ammo. I think that's just BS, in my opinion. And it's just a horrible oversight on Techland. But 25 hours, I could see that. That's about where I don't know if I'm at 25 hours. I'm probably about half that. But even then, I find myself saying, okay, I just kind of want to get to the next story beat. And although I've read things, I've seen things that have mentioned that the story isn't all that great or grand, it's even a better reason for me to just get through it, right? I think I enjoyed playing Alien Isolation more than I've enjoyed playing Dying Light 2. That doesn't necessarily mean Alien Isolation is a superior game. I think Dying Light 2 has a lot going on with its physics and its detail and its environment, sure. But at face value, it gets boring and repetitive very fast. And you just kind of want to get through the game. That's where I'm at with it. But then again, I diversify my catalog, even if I am limited with my time, which another reason why when I do play games, I try to make sure I play a game that I'm actually enjoying. Not like, say, Dying Light 2, where I'm like, oh, this isn't really fun. This is actually like a little boring to me. I'm not really enjoying it. I'm just playing it to be playing it. No, once I get to that point, I either want to finish the game or try to get my rule of thumb in, which I say at least 60 hours of game play from a game. If it costs me $60, I at least want to get at least a dollar an hour of entertainment. So I at least want to get 60 hours in the game. Anything less, I look at like, well, hey, like Cliff said, I beat the game in 24 hours, 25 hours, and I have no interest in going back to it. The game costs 60, so you're leaving a lot, about what, $35 on the table, where you say, hey, if I'd have bought this game at $30 and got 25 hours out of it, maybe that's a worthy investment, right? But a 60-hour game and only getting about 20 hours of solid gameplay out of, that's just not enough for me personally. Again, I like to play open world games, so I like to play games that have a lot to offer in terms of time consuming activities, side quests, hunting, things like that. Dying Light 2 is just not there. I rather play something else like maybe Days Gone or Red Dead Redemption 2. I'm somewhere in between those two games in terms of my next open world game. And I also have Resident Evil Village that I need to finish and play. So, and I also have a better option at a pop-up live stream game that I think would be much more entertaining than Dying Light 2. It just kind of drags, it gets boring, and even as a game for you guys as viewers who come to the platform, who come to YouTube to either be entertained or informed, and if you're more on the former, not the latter, and you've come to the platform to be entertained, and the game is boring, guess what you're gonna do? You're gonna leave. You're gonna be like, the hell with this guy inside the lab. I'm out. I'm gonna go play something that's more, that looks a little bit funner, or go watch another content creator who's playing something better. So that's where I'm at with it. And I see we got Tricion's in the house. Tricion gets the horn. Tricion says, yo, guys, just got home. And I understand it's probably a little late for Tricion over there in the Netherlands. Tricion says, working on repadding my 3080 and 3080 Ti. Nice. Oh, would you pick those up? Ouch. Good finds, man. That 10 gigabyte RTX 3080, that slightly faster RTX 3080 Ti. How are you liking it? It's a big step up from your, I believe you had a 2070 Super. Well, it is, but going from a 2070 Super to a 3080. That's solid, solid, solid. I see you say you're working on repadding. What brands did you go with? Did you go with Founders or um, what add-in board vendors did you go with? But it's either way, it's good to see you, Tricion. We actually had the music that was playing at the title screen, the Welcome to the Inside the Lab live experience title screen. That was actually done by our guy Tricion. So good stuff. Shout out to Tricion once again for supplying music, and I'm actually going to use a couple other tracks in some upcoming videos that has been produced by Tricion. So shout out to Tricion. If you want, some good music to stream and listen to, check out his channel. Check out Tricion's channel. But Tricion, we've been talking about to kind of get caught up here and then to reset the room. We were talking about why PC gaming isn't what you expected here in 2022. And the take that we were on right now is that that you could be lost and turned out due to the lack of preparation and research. And so not knowing how to upgrade or repair your system, not knowing where to start or how to start can leave you reluctant to do so. Thus, this in turn would just turn around and leave you not being able to enhance your overall experience, not being able to level up your experience and get more out of your games or your games. So I had mentioned earlier that, or a few minutes ago, that your first component should be your monitor. The first component you put the most amount of thought into should be your monitor. This is where you want to do proper research on your system. If not, that you can find yourself with a system that isn't competent enough to take advantage of your monitor, or a monitor who isn't competent enough to take advantage of your system. If you have a higher end graphics card like Tricion's 3080 or even 3080 Ti, and your monitor is only, say, a 1080p 60 hertz or 1080p 144 hertz, then you're not getting the most out of your system or your graphics card in terms of what it's capable of doing. A graphics card like the RTX 3080, you're in a higher, a higher resolution beyond 1920 by 1080p. That's more so for your 3070s and your 3060s, two graphics cards that could be paired with faster CPUs that would benefit at that resolution and that would still allow you to output a high amount of FPS. But when you're looking at a graphics card like the RTX 3080, chances are you're in a higher resolution department, or you want to be at a higher resolution. That way, you can take advantage of most of what that graphics card has to offer, especially with its 10 gigabytes of VRAM. You don't necessarily need. Oh, I just lost display. Oh, wait a minute. Okay, hold on a second. Okay, there we go. Um, with 10, you don't necessarily need 10 gigabytes of VRAM to play at 1920 by 1080p. You could, serve you well with say 4 or 6 gigabytes. But with the graphics card, you want your monitor to be able to complement your system. You want your system to be able to complement your monitor. As Triceon says, I bought a 3080 Ti Founders Edition a few months ago, and I found a 3080 MSI Gaming Z Trio. Oh, I love the MSI Gaming Z Trio shroud. I had the 2080 Gaming X Trio, and well, it's Gaming Z, but it was Gaming X Trio with the 20 series, and I loved that shroud. I still do. Um, a week ago for €500 cheaper than the average price. Nice, and both were not used. Straight from the Dutch Newegg. Nice. Okay. Good stuff, man. I mean, that's a good find. And the Newegg is one retailer that I didn't mention earlier that I should, that while graphics cards may be hit or miss, you could come across either a lotto deal where you get both, you can get it bundled and packaged with, say, a motherboard and CPU, or CPU or another component. But if you frequent, you could almost, strike on a deal and come across with a higher end, newer graphics card, especially if you want to take advantage of things like ray tracing, other features like Cliff's favorite DLSS. I keep saying Cliff because Cliff is not a fan of DLSS. I think it's necessary in some games, well implemented in some games, not so much in others, but still very much a feature that needs to be worked out so it's better implemented. Some have called for Elden Ring to have DLSS, but they have other issues they need to work out first before even thinking about introducing DLSS into the fold. But good finds, Triceon. I know you've been waiting for a while, and you struck when the iron was hot. So good stuff. Triceon says thanks for the shout out, fam. Absolutely no problem. Again, check out Triceon's channel if you're interested in some of the music, especially that you hear here. You hear here, but all good stuff. But yeah, I mean, lack of preparation and research could leave you lost and turned out, and it could leave you reluctant to not want to enhance your experience. So you want to make sure you are doing the proper research with your system, even if you are not building it yourself, even if you are not upgrading the components yourself. Again, the core focus of this conversation was PC gaming and why it's not what you expected. More so in 2022. I mean, it might not be what you expected in 2021. It may not be what you expected in 2020. It may not be what you expected in 2019. You could have built a system during those years, and now here you are in 2022 still feeling any one of these emotional rides, right? Either it's not what it costs more than you originally thought, or you didn't do you didn't do enough preparation and research before you bought or build or upgraded your system, and now you don't know where and how to take it to the next level. Cliff says, okay, plumbers, my sprinkler in my yard leaking. Oh, that's not good. I'm a horrible plumber. I mean, I am not good at that kind of stuff. But and it's weird because you figure as enthusiasts we have to use our hands so much. You think you would be able to jump in just about any situation you're faced with, but when it comes to cars and home maintenance, I hire the experts. But anything computer related, I'm all there. Tech computer related, I'm all there. But welcome back, Cliff. Welcome back. We were just talking about how again, lack of preparation and research could leave you reluctant to want to enhance your experience. This could leave you, in the dust. This could leave you behind being able to take advantage of newer games or to getting the most out of the games that you're still currently playing. You could be playing Destiny 2 on a GTX 1060 and a standard 1080p 60 hertz monitor. But if you don't know, let's say you didn't have your PSU isn't big enough to say take advantage of an RTX 3070. An RTX 3070 may be available, but you didn't, do enough research into future upgrades. And now you also have to swap out your PSU. And now you can't make both of those upgrade changes. So you just won't, you're just reluctant to do anything with your system. This could leave you lost and turned out. Don't be that person. Even if it is an upgrade you want to make, do your proper research. Okay. You heard of the what, three P's: the piss poor, or proper, poor, proper, whatever research, whatever. I can't remember right now. I'm having a total brain freeze. But do your proper research, okay? Um, or do proper research, do proper preparation. That's a handful. Proper preparation, okay? Because lack thereof can leave you reluctant to do anything, right? It's kind of like you're like a deer in the headlights. You're scared to move. You should move. You should get out the way, or you should get going, but you don't know. You're stuck. You don't know where to go, how to get started, right? In terms of upgrading your system, this could be detrimental to your experience. You're unable to enhance it, right? You want to go multi-monitor, but your CPU doesn't have integrated graphics, and your graphics card, maybe it's a legacy card, only has support for one display out. And this could this could definitely affect or have some limitations to how you experience your games. And Cliff says PC gaming in 1886 was fire, horse and buggy powered. I did a short. I can't remember if it was 1886, but I did do a short that it was around, the late 19th century. It was in the mid late 19th century, where one of the first computers, quote unquote computers, was conceived, and it was rather large, and it was more so like a calculator to where it just processed functions. But I tell you what, it probably was much cooler, right? It probably was much cooler. I mean, there weren't as many transistors that needed to that was firing at the same time, so there was less heat. In this case, that fire is a good thing. It was like fire, that that kind of fire, air horn kind of fires. Tracy, I says those were the good old times. I know, right? Right? Which, speaking of good old times, this is a perfect segue into the next take as we conclude, wrap up lack of preparation and research, and how that could, leave you as a PC gamer reluctant to upgrade. Do your proper research, and then you won't have that reluctancy to want to make the necessary changes to get more out of your system. You could be, okay with using that RTX 2060 for the last 3 years, but now you're ready to experience your games at a higher fidelity, or maybe you want to pair it with a faster CPU. Do your research, know how, understand how TDP works. And if you need a video on how TDP works, I have it over on our highlight series playlist. You can find all of the playlists I mentioned either down in the description box below or over on the channel homepage. When we talked about TDP and estimated wattage, you should understand those things and the PSU requirements for these graphics cards. So you might have enough money for, say, your Z Fluent. Well, I'm not sure if Z Fluent's still here. Let me know if you're still here, Z. Maybe your Zion, and you want to start off with the modest car like the RX 580, but a year from now you might find yourself able to snag an RTX 3070 at its proper MSRP, that is about 500 USD. Maybe that's you. Do your proper preparation. Okay, don't ignore the research. Even if you're not building it yourself, even if you already have your system, you still should be preparing for future upgrades, because future upgrades will also introduce performance inducing metrics, right? It'll increase either your FPS or the overall aesthetic of your build. It doesn't necessarily always have to be about getting more performance. You can also want to just increase your overall setup. Maybe you want a comfortable gaming chair. Maybe you want a wider desk so your PC cannot be on the floor. Sorry, I'm not big on PCs on floors. It should be on your desk, eye level, so you can see and enjoy all of the work and energy and effort. And this one right here, hold on, money, excuse me, that went into bringing your system to life. Even if you didn't touch the components going inside, do your proper research. So important and often ignored. But the last point I want to bring up, and that is, as a PC gamer, or PC gaming may not be what you expected, because you simply have to expect the unexpected. That being, most importantly, the global chip shortage. Now let's rewind it a bit, because when Zen 2 first dropped, they were widely affected, and they launched at a time when they were needed the most. And I did a video at the time. At the time of the video at that time, the video had took off organically, no promotion at all, like on social media or anything. It just the algorithm really picked it up, and that's because there was a lot of interest in Zen 2 CPUs, but they were all selling for about 50 to 60% more than they should have. And now, if you were say on a Zen CPU, maybe like a 1600 or 1800X, 1600X, and you wanted to upgrade to that newer chipset and CPU, you just simply couldn't. And you say, hey, this isn't what I expected. Whoa, what happened? Same thing with graphics cards. Let's say you're on like an older 300 series R9 graphics card or 200 series R7 or an NVIDIA 700 series GPU. And you said, hey, in 2019, I'm going to upgrade my CPU and my graphics card. And then bam, the unexpected happened. The global chip shortage happened. Um, gamers gamers were left unable to scale their performance in an affordable and economical manner. That is, with affordable cards or CPUs. I mean, obviously, the CPU situation has materialized much faster than it has over on the silicon for GPUs. But with affordable cards and adequate inventory, not hey, you got to get lucky going to the Micro Center, or you got to constantly hit refresh over on Newegg and Best Buy. Hey, I say forget about it. Okay, you're better off chasing the Newegg unicorn, or even quite possibly trying to, if you're stateside, go to a Micro Center, or if Micro Center is where you are. Again, I'm not. I need to clarify. I'm not sure if they're international, but if they are, or like B&H ships internationally, you're better off catching, trying to strike a deal there. But the stock on CPUs have improved dramatically. But if y'all remember, that wasn't the case when Zen 2 first dropped. Okay, a lot of those CPUs, 5600X and you know 50 not 5600X but 3600X and 3600, those CPUs were selling at an incredible price point, much higher than what they should have. And in a lot of cases, they just weren't available. It was dark times then, dark times. And if you look at what it means to be a PC gamer, it literally means you have to be prepared to expect the unexpected. This isn't the first time we had a GPU shortage. If some of you remember, we had this issue from 2018 to 2019 as well. And then if you go even further back, there was one point where RAM memory modules were super expensive and super hard to find. I'm talking about 32 gigabytes of DDR4 kits selling for $1,000 or more. The DDR4 kit I had a couple offers come my way because people were looking for it, willing to offer me $700-800 for it. And I don't believe in selling. I'm a capitalist, sure, but I don't believe in selling the hardware and components more than what they're worth simply because of there's taking advantage of the situation, if you will. But I mean, I just held on to it. But I tell you what, we had this issue with RAM, and RAM is so important to your overall system's functionality that if you think about it, during that time when RAM was scarce and super, higher than ever than what it in terms of cost, this likely deterred a lot of gamers, especially PC gamers, away from the platform. Okay, or from finishing their build. I mean, you need RAM. There's no way around it. You could build a CPU. You could build a system with integrated graphics with your CPU, or a CPU like an AMD Vega based CPU. When it comes to RAM, there's no getting around that. And for a serious gaming system, gaming PC, 16 gigabytes or more is the now. I don't know about 8 anymore. I would definitely say 16 gigabytes should be the standard, and that's the case even 3 years ago when RAM was scarce, or RAM was short. And by short, I mean there just wasn't enough to go around, so this inflated the overall price of them. But being a PC gamer, you have to be prepared to expect the unexpected. We get caught up in the chat here really fast. Cliff says Tech Power Up has a good GPU database with relative performance. Say you search, yes, you're absolutely right. I've seen that. I will go to Tech Power Up's database for especially if I'm looking up like older specifications on legacy hardware. But they do have a compare and contrast within their database. Like Cliff mentions that you can research or search RX 580 and you'll see the GTX 1060 will be listed, and it says on average the 1060 is 6% more or 6% faster than a 580. It's a great tool for stuff like that. And Tricion's cosines tech power up. Sure. I mean, again, it's one of those tools that, like PCPartPicker.com, is a free tool, and if it's there and available at your disposal, then you should be taking advantage of it to help you circumvent the unexpected. One, and two, also it falls into doing your proper planning and research into your build or into the upgrade path that you're trying to embark on. If you're coming from, say, the FX series CPU or FX platform, AM3 Plus platform, and you want to branch off to an AM4 platform, then look at different, PCIe interfaces, Gen 3, Gen 4, different CPU core counts, how each individual CPU is built on a different architecture, right? Um, Tech power up though is good for, if you're looking to make that GP, if you're looking to upgrade your GPU, and you need that hindsight to give you to help you provide. I guess what I'm trying to say is provide additional context into that buying decision, into that buying choice. Your graphics card is going to make up at least 50% of the total cost of your build. So it's only right that you do the majority of your research into that component. It's going to have a direct impact on the type of games you play, how many monitors you can display, the refresh rate and the resolution you want to play at. Okay. Cliff says, "Can we get T-shirts? My GPU and I survived the tectonic." Absolutely. In fact, I had some design to where it says "I survived the tectonic," but new merch. I'm gonna make an unofficial announcement here. But new merch is coming up. I'm way behind on the merch, but I have something special set up and designed for merch. So yes, absolutely, that'd be definitely cool. Because a lot of us have survived the tectonic. I mean, if you look at like Z-Fluent, who's been waiting years, it seems like. And at one point, Z-Fluence, if y'all remember Zion on the live stream, I said, you know what? I give up. I give up. I just give up. I can't. I don't want to do it. I won't be able to find what I'm looking for. And I just can't get into PC gaming. And he was hosed over on eBay. He was scammed over on eBay buying a graphics card. And Z-Fluence was ready to just say, F it. You know what? I don't even care. I don't want to get into it anymore. But nah, he persevered. And here he is now watching, or was watching. I'm not sure if Z-Fluence is still here with us, but now he's on his actual system, and he's ready to rock and roll, just waiting on his dedicated video card. So you're right. A lot of us, Cliff, have survived the tech demic. Even Tricion, being able to upgrade to have both a 3080 and a 3080 Ti to his disposal, and Cliff with his many many systems, and even Sparta Rules 1993, who we built his system in the height of the tech demic, if you will, which that video is still awesome. If you haven't seen the 5800X RTX 3060 build where we built Sparta Rules' PC, I highly recommend you give that one a watch. Super fun piece of content, and it's done in a cinematic esque style. As I said, I like to tell stories behind in the build series and the build videos I do. But that could possibly provide some additional insights into a lot of the things that we've discussed during today's live stream. So definitely check that video out. I mean, Mrs. Ma could drop it in the chat if you want to refer back to it at the conclusion of the show. And again, you want more content, but I definitely know it's down in the description box as well. And let me see. The strategist says, definitely true, man. I remember when I got back into PC gaming in 2019, I got a new motherboard that only housed newer Intel CPUs because my motherboard wasn't working. So I had to buy 8700K, so I couldn't use my 3700K. Oh, okay, gotcha. Yeah. Yeah. So, what chipset is the third generation Intel on? I want to say, is that not Z97? I could be wrong, but it's true. I mean, I I imagine what the strategist is pointing out is doing proper research into either your upgrade path, right? And the strategist's point got back into PC gaming and wanted to make sure they got a you know the strategist pointing out that my motherboard wasn't working, so I had to buy 8700K, which 8700K is a capable 6-core 12-thread CPU, 8th generation 6-core 12-thread CPU. We're selling for like a little under $200, I believe. I have one. If you've seen the build video I did with Snow White 2.0, which I had a 9900K sitting around, I'm usually slow to the upgrade party, but I swapped out my 8700K for 9900K, And because I game at such a higher resolution, my CPU really becomes the biggest factor while I'm creating content. And thus, I see the need to want to upgrade uh, simply to increase my content productivity, not so much my gaming productivity or getting more FPS out of my games. For me, the upgrade is more important to uh, streamlining the content creation performance. For example, I use Adobe Premiere for a lot of my video editing. So Adobe Premiere takes advantage of strong multi-core CPUs. On top of that, CPUs that have strong IPC. So, that's kind of where I'm at with it, especially once I break into wanting to shoot, record, and edit in 4K. But sorry if I butchered that strategist, but I understand where you're coming from. And to my opinion, that again, it highlights that you want to do your proper research and make sure you are preparing yourself for that upgrade path. When I got into PC gaming and got back into PC gaming, I believe it was 2016, 2017. That's what I did. I didn't just jump into it. I said, okay, well, here comes AMD is getting ready to change the dynamics with their upcoming Ryzen launch, their 1000 series launch with Ryzen, and that's when I came right into the fold. It was perfect timing, right? Um, and so I did the proper research to see what all is required of me to get to, I guess, to be reintroduced to the platform in a way that would suit my playstyle, because I was coming from consoles. I favor detail in my graphics, and then playability second in my games. So for me, it was all about making sure I had a robust GPU. Now, one thing I didn't plan for though was the upgrade. Is I had a GTX 1080, and even in the I believe I had a 1600X. It was slow. Um, Even at 4K, and I knew immediately that I wanted to go up. Or my first graphics card was a 1050 Ti with the 1600X, and I knew immediately that wasn't enough. And then I went from there onto a GTX 1080, but I didn't upgrade my CPU. So even then, I didn't do proper research and planning. It cost me more down the road to achieve the level of performance I was targeting. But I tell you what, okay, well, thanks again for the comments. I do appreciate it. Keep them rolling here as we segue into the warm up, or I'm sorry, the wrap up. We did the warm up, but as we segue into the wrap up, because we highlighted a lot of different points in today's live show, and PC gaming may not be what you expected, but that's largely in part because the platform has so much to offer, providing plenty to game. But when easeability is greater than functionality, you begin to question your decision. You begin to question, should I have made this switch from my PS4 that only cost me $200, or you got a PS4 Pro for under $300 versus going off and spending over $1,000 on a custom system? When easeability again is greater than functionality, you could begin to question PC gaming as a whole, like as to why it's not what you expected. But don't let that narrative sour the fruits of your labor and the effort that got you there. Remember, this is a mountain climb. The top of that mountain is the pinnacle of PC gaming. The climb is part of the journey, the research, all that good stuff. Don't let the situation outweigh the relationship. Okay? PC gaming may not be what you expected because it's everything it already needs to be. It's expensive. It's always been expensive. It's confusing. It's always been confusing. Remember, it requires half the effort but costs twice as much. It's not what you expected because it's everything it already needs to be. And if and when you or someone you know find yourselves shocked beyond expectation, believe you me, fam, it's better to be surprised than to be disappointed. Ride that wave back to the platform should you find yourself astray. Ooh, all right, man. That's good. That's good stuff, man. I'm telling you, it's better to be surprised than to be disappointed. Expect the unexpected. Okay, it's one of the points we went over today. Expect the unexpected. Better to be surprised than it is to be disappointed. Let me get caught up in the chat here. Cliff says, big debate, it seems, in the community, but I think 6 cores are still totally viable, and I still totally agree. I think some scenarios, and depending on the type of games, I think a platform that you can start off with 4 cores is more than enough. Again, just as a start, that could be, on with the 10th generation Intel CPUs who all have hyperthreading down the stack, 10th generation on up, or even Ryzen. Maybe you start off with a 4 core, 8 thread Ryzen CPU, and you can slowly upgrade should your needs increase and your interest in playing more games increases. Then you have that option to upgrade. It's another one of the beautiful prospects of being a PC gamer, and that is you can upgrade when you are ready. And so long as it's not, say, a replacement of a part, you can upgrade when you are ready. Remember how Cliff and what even just strategists put it. It's not always about necessity as much as it's about choice. I want to upgrade my CPU. I want to upgrade my graphics card. My CPU is perfectly fine, but I want to play Elden Ring. Elden Ring requires me to have at least a 6 core, 6 thread CPU, right? An 8400 to be exact at a minimum. Depending on what the game is, right? Um, you know, prepare yourself to be able to upgrade. Give yourself enough leeway to say, yeah, 6 cores is still totally viable. I mean, it's a good start. It doesn't necessarily have to be 6, but it's a good start. And definitely, especially if you do your proper research, you look at the requirements for the type of games you want to play. It is a good start. As Cliff said, these games just don't utilize much beyond 8 cores, and I agree. And really, an 8 core CPU. I mean, you're in the realm of, yeah, you have 2 monitors up. You have maybe, Afterburner, Spotify running in the background, Discord. You have other processes going on in the background that you want other cores freed to be able to execute those processes to where it's not impacting the performance of your games, right? Some games take advantage of 6 or more cores. GTA 5, I think Red Dead Redemption 2. I even want to say Dying Light 2. If you look at that, if you go back and look at that video, it's a long stream. It's like a 3-hour stream. It's a good conversation that we had a good time. Even in that stream, there I saw at least all of the cores and threads being with utilization over 40 to 50%. So it could depend on the game, and it could depend on also what it is you are doing. But yeah, most games don't necessarily take advantage of 8 or more cores. And if you are looking at a CPU with 8 or more cores, you probably are looking at a workflow that's beyond just gaming, right? Maybe you also create content on the side. Maybe you do photo manipulation or graphic design, or you're a game developer, right? Or you're a videographer yourself. It's typically where you would want to start looking at a CPU with 8 or more cores. If somebody came to me as an amateur, I guess you will, as an amateur system integrator, if somebody came to me and said, "Well, I want a CPU with 8 cores," I would want to know, well, why? Because if you don't need a CPU with 8 cores, we can save some of that budget. Here it goes, back under the proper preparation, doing your due diligence and research. If you don't need a CPU with 8 cores, we could then say take that price difference and invest it somewhere else. A better PSU for a future GPU edition, or a premium motherboard for better CPU, for a faster CPU down the road, a better case, or hey, most importantly, putting that money towards a fast graphics card. This Cliff says, I still would love to see a video of something like this. PC meets the minimum requires for the top 10 games. This PC meets the recommended requirements for the top 10 games. Compare and contrast. And what some of these and what some of these system integrators were selling for $1,000 during the depth of the tech demic was absolutely highway robbery. GT 710s and 1030s. Yeah, I mean, it was during that time where I wouldn't recommend I wouldn't have recommended buying a pre-built if it had either one of those graphics cards, and it was selling for anywhere near that price point. And likely that means that system integrator might have even bought that PC, gutted the GPU out, and put something slower in there. I saw a lot of that over on the used market, where I can tell somebody bought a pre-built PC, took like the 1660 out or a 2060 and put something slower in there, and now they want to sell it they're double dipping, trying to get even more out of that system. It was dark times. This is why, yeah, Cliff, like Cliff said, I survived the GPU pandemic shirts. And Cliff, oh man, Cliff, you're too generous, fam. Cliff again
Thanks
with
for
the
the super chat.
super chat.
Now you got a super rap.
Hey, Cliff putting $1 on, throwing $1 at me. I appreciate it again. Large or small, all amounts help big and all. I appreciate the support, but I totally agree. Some system integrators, they weren't really helping the situation. They were making it worse by doing that. And so I say it's kudos to those of us still with a conscience and that's willing and able to sell systems at a respectable price, because at the end of the day, I want to get as many users onto this platform as possible. That is what the overall goal and mission here with the content we put out on this channel and the overall community interaction and engagement. We want to be able to inspire or educate as many different users as possible that would encourage them to want to get over onto this platform, not give them roadblocks, right? No player in the wild. That's on a shirt. That's actually one of my favorite pieces of merch. No player in the wild. I would bring up the merch here, but it's normally we do it at the beginning of the housekeeping. I'm not going to do it here. But as we roll back into the normal production of the show, I will do some friendly reminders on ways to support the channel, and merch is definitely being one of them, that you can look good while you're gaming and feel good while you're gaming with some Inside the Lab merch. It's beyond just like YouTube channel member or channel branding. It's clothing, it's apparel that just suits you as a PC gamer and enthusiast, right? It's just, has some Inside the Lab channel branding going on with it, but it's beyond just like me as a creator. And Cliff says, I was throw Elden Ring to the Optiplex big muscle. Optiflex big muscle. Optiplex big. I was throwing Elden Ring to the Optiplex big muscle. I'm actually curious to see if I'm understanding your comment. I too would like to see how well Elden Ring runs on older hardware. What's more so concerning is how well optimized that console corporate magic is, because it runs on a PS4. That's almost 10-year-old hardware, but it's struggling on modern hardware. But let that sink in for a second. Again, Elden Ring struggles on, modern hardware with stuttering and frame rate issues, but it can still run on a 10-year-old console, the PS4 or even the Xbox. Yeah, it might not look that well, but it'll run 30 FPS nonetheless, but 900p too, but it'll run. But this is why another benefit to being a PC gamer is, again, the flexibility in your in-game settings. You could even choose how the game renders itself. If you want to render it like a console, how a console may render the game at 1280 by 720p or 1800 by 900p, somewhere along the lines of those resolutions, you too could render the game and also take advantage of getting more FPS to make it more playable if the game is struggling. But Elden Ring has its own issues going on with it that needs to be addressed by the developer From Software. And Cliff says, games don't even tickle my 12900K Elder Lake, but I'm going to ride that pony for a while. It's a great CPU with its performance and efficient cores, but the 12900K is great for content creators. Some of the content creators who I loosely talk to have asked me about it and talked to me about it. You can see the benefit from it there, but we just have to wait and see what the platform brings next. And by platform, I mean both Intel's platform and AMD's platform. We have a lot of content to talk about, or a lot of content coming up that highlights the upcoming CPUs, and just a lot of conversations to be had. I'm looking forward to it, fam. But all right, I think it's time for us to end the ride. The ride is slowly coming to an end. For those who don't know, if you're still here, we do closing shout outs. It's unconventional and not really what the creators and gurus recommend, but we do shout outs. If you're still here when I shout you out, let me know. But first and foremost, of course, special shout out and thanks to WASD Moves for the supers and for supporting the channel. Tricion, of course, for coming through. The Strategist 418, shout out to you as well. Thanks for coming in and letting us know you were here and watching with us. Let me see. Shout out to Mrs. Mod, of course, for keeping the conversation going and dropping those helpful and additional links over in the chat. Let me see here. Squatter Rules 1993, of course, for being a channel member. Most importantly, a master. Shout out to you. And shout out to our masters. Cloud Zazy. Cloud, where you at, fam? Cloud, it was good to see you. Mama Lab. My mom came through. Shout out to her. Mama Lab also gets a round of applause. Shout out to Mama Lab. Let me see. Let's keep going. Z-Flow and Zion. Congratulations again on your system and for getting closer and closer to achieving what you're looking for out of your games on the PC. TMZ, you still with us? Let me know, TMZ. It was great also seeing you as always, TMZ. We had a couple trolls come in. Of course, you ain't doing something right if the trolls don't come in and try to spoil the fun. There's always going to be one. So shout out to the trolls. But let me see. I think that was it. All right. All good stuff. Ooh, let me see. Let me get caught up here. Let me see. Cliff says, I sold a young kid's mom a PC for his birthday. His first ever i5 9400G, 8 gigabytes and 750 Ti. Bro, this kid was so happy. Awesome. Man, that warms my heart to know. That warms my heart to know. It's a very good starter system there that has a lot of upgrade potential, especially on either that 70 or 90 series chipset. Going all the way from an i5 to, an i9, 9900K. Great stuff. And it's on a newer DDR4 platform, so take advantage of those DDR4 speeds. And of course, the 750 Ti, great starter card, especially for a young kid who may not at start, even be interested in high FPS or details in their graphics and all that good stuff. But Cliff says his mom couldn't afford Best Buy quote gaming PCs, so warm my heart. Yes, to hook the young man up, man. Kudos to you, Cliff. Let me give Cliff a round of applause. And that's great. Again, hopefully you recommended him to check out the channel. Nah, I'm joking, but that's good stuff. And I mean, that's what it's all about, man. That's what it's all about. A strategist says, still here. Thanks, man. Yeah, strategist, thank you. Thank you for supporting the channel with your time. Time is a precious resource. Time is the one resource that you can't refund or ask for it back once you spend it. Once it's gone, that's it. And I appreciate you guys spending your time here with the live show. Just a couple quick announcements. Do keep a lookout for the live show link for next week's live show. That should be hitting your feeds. So do keep a lookout for that. I know I normally ask, but when you like the stream, even before it airs, it does help YouTube continue to push that upcoming stream out to more people. So even when you see it, definitely still like it, although it's not set to air till a couple days later, and set the reminder. Those are all good signs and signals to YouTube that we should put this stream in front of more people because there's interest in that particular stream. And it's going to help us reach more people. That's also what it's about, trying to reach as many people as possible. Cliff says he was getting into Roblox and Skyrim and stuff like that. Okay, his mom said he wanted a PC. He did not want a console. Yes, good. Again, I don't want to make it seem like I'm a console hater. Y'all know what I say. This needs to be on a t-shirt too. Consoles have a purpose. PCs have character. Better to do it over where the character is, right? Judge by the contents of one character and not, them. They're being judgmental within itself. But consoles have a purpose. PCs have character. That's where it's at. And I see you said she's a single mom. She's a teacher at a school district here in the Houston school district, and she just couldn't put that kind of money together. So I worked with her, and it was a very rewarding experience. And that right there is priceless. Just knowing that you're able to help. You can almost say bring a kid's dream to life as under current circumstances, that that parent as a mother, she's probably priced out of all the other alternatives and options. But this is why, again, this community is predicated on the used market. And in stories like what Cliff just shared, being able to flip a used system for someone and to make it affordable for them. And now that PC, that system has enough potential to introduce performance enhancing upgrades, maybe more RAM, right? Maybe a GTX 980 or maybe a GTX 780. Should this particular person have enough disposable income? Or maybe the kid might save up and say, "Hey, I worked over the summertime, and I got a couple $100. What could I upgrade my system?" They could always consult and come back to you, Cliff. You can say, "Hey, I got $300. What could I add to my system that would make it better?" Most of the time, it's they want to know how I can make it faster, right? But it's like, what could I add to my system that would make it faster or would make it better? And even as a base configuration, that system has a lot of potential and opportunity to get a PC gamer started, but to not only just get them started, but to keep them going, right? To make them not want to lose interest, right? And to even just highlight some of the points made here today. Um, so long as they do their proper research and they put their money into areas that they would want to increase their system, then it's a good start. But even playing games like Roblox, and similar not games that aren't as demanding, that system is well rounded. Fort, and Roblox, Skyrim can also run on a potato. Not, you can turn the graphic settings down, but even then, that system has a lot of potential to uh, where you can add to it and they can get more out of it. So good stuff, Cliff. Thank you for sharing that story, and on behalf of the whole community and all of us, thank you for thank you for continuing and fighting the good fight, because we are still very much in the techdemic. We got some areas we need to improve on, and sure, we would like it to improve and get better, because users like this young man or young kid here in your story, we want them to be able to take advantage of that new used price of performance. Take your 9400, but maybe consider going up 2-3 generations. Pick up a GTX 1060 or an RX 580. Like that configuration that you sold them is actually very closely, uh, you know, based around the same system that Z Fluent has. Ninth generation i5, 8 gigabytes of DDR4, right? And Z Fluent said he's going with either an RX 580 or GTX 1060. Either one of those graphics cards would be, all things considered and under normal circumstances. I see Tracion, welcome back, T. I don't think we shouted out Tracion on our closing show, but anyway, Tracion also, who was here, of course, supporting. But you know, either one of those graphics cards would be solid upgrade paths, budget conscious upgrade paths for that system. One that they could get more out of the same games he plays. Maybe not Roblox, right? Excuse me, but games like Skyrim and similar ones like it, or I'm sure as that child gets older, they might want to branch off and play games like Call of Duty Warzone. I would say Battlefield 2042, but Battlefield is such a weird place. I almost did a hardware review video on Battlefield 2042, but it's like the interest in the game had fizzled out so quickly. I was like, I don't know if there's enough relevance here. I did say I would revisit it though, if EA Dice, you know, owns up to their, puts their money where their mouth is and makes the necessary changes that they said they would to make the game an actual game. Because it's very, Battlefield 2042 is boring to me. I'm like, I don't even know if this is even really fun. I'd rather play Call of Duty Warzone. So that could be you, or maybe not. But and Dryzer says, wait, what I miss? Well, Cliff was really fast here. I'll recap. Cliff was sharing the story on a system he sold to a single mom who's a teacher here in the States. And he sold a system with an i5 9400 and 8 gigabytes of DDR4 and a GTX 750 Ti. And this particular kid was just overwhelmed with enthusiasm because they really wanted a PC, and because the current scope of the techdemic makes it prices a lot of people out who are budget conscious. It priced them out of getting a system, but once again, that used price to performance came to the rescue. Okay, that used price to performance came to the rescue here, as Cliff was able to flip a system and under that configuration to allow that kid to just break through and get started with PC gaming, even at a modest level, playing games like Roblox and Fort, and Triceon, your favorite game, Fortnite. I met Triceon through way of Fortnite, not playing, but I believe it's through a giveaway. But Yeah, I mean, and like Cliff said, it was a rewarding experience, and I think you being a system integrator yourself, Tricia, and myself, and any others who are here on the replay or live stream, part of my ignorance. If you're here too and you're a system integrator, I think we all could say that for the most part, we all too would have feeling, that same feeling of gratification that we were able to help somebody get into something that we too are all very much passionate about, something we all enjoy with great to a great extent, that some of us will upgrade even when we don't need to. Some of us will, put money into our system. I don't necessarily look at it as just I'm just putting money into my system. No, up to some extent, to some point, we are investing in our experience. Even for that young man, Cliff, brother Cliff, if you continue to maintain correspondence, which you most likely will, he likely will run into unforeseen issues, right? Technical hiccups and what have you, or just may have questions. But do know, assure the parent, first and foremost, they're the one with the coin, that at the end of the day, when it comes to their child's experience or their child's PC, they are investing in their experience as a gamer. So they know if this is something they really like to do, then you best believe the money that you're putting into that system is going towards improving their experience. If they know their kids really into baseball, guess what they're going to do? They're going to, you know, try to buy them the best equipment. They're going to invest in their experience as a young ball player. Same thing with basketball. Same thing with football. Maybe you want higher in cleats. Maybe you want higher in gloves. Maybe you want to go to this training camp. Maybe you want to go to this gym. If you're really into playing football, then as a parent or any, partner, spouse, mate, what have you, you're looking at that money spent as investing into their experience. In this case, we're referring to, playing games on the PC gaming. And so, and to use that young kids as an example, to use this child as an example, at being a PC gamer, their parent is investing in their experience. You want more RAM? Hey, RAM's not that expensive now. You can, either pick up an additional 8 GB kit for 24 or 29 bucks or something like that, under 50 bucks, or a faster 16 GB kit, 3600 megahertz or whatever the i5 9400 supports. I believe it's 2666 megahertz, but maybe faster RAM, right? Maybe an older GPU, like a GTX 780 or a GTX 980 or GTX 970. It'd be a heck of an upgrade. Now, again, all things considered, the market would have to stabilize and GPUs would have to be widely available to get to that point. But nonetheless, that's a great sensation and a great feeling. And I tell you what, y'all, as a content creator in this space, in the tech space, in the PC gaming tech space, I love seeing stories like that. And we should have more stories like that, regardless of where you are in the world. Even if you're not the one who's supplying the system for the person, you could be helping them make the transition into being a PC gamer. You know the questions. What kind of PSU should I need? How much money do I have to spend? For the most part, all of you in this community, we have the answers to those questions. We can help the uninformed make informed decisions, right? The correct buying choices. And if not, send them my way, fam. Drop them over, send them over here on the live stream. I will gladly answer their questions, even off the quote unquote YouTube clock. I've been calling it that. But you do so much of YouTube stuff not on YouTube, so I digress. But send them over here. Again, even if it's off the YouTube clock, I will gladly help them with any of their pain points and any questions they may have. But when you're able to help someone like Cliff did as a system integrator or not, maybe you point them in the right direction of a pre-built, or you help them upgrade maybe they have a legacy system, or they coming from an Optiplex, or like Cliff likes to call it an Optiflex. I like Optiflex. Right, something, I don't know, just this is a dope buzzword. But maybe they're coming from an older platform and they're trying to look to say, how can I improve upon this? How can I make it better? How can I get more out of my games? Right? How can I eliminate stuttering? How can I eliminate screen tearing? How can my FPS is locked at 60? These are all things we could help the uninformed. And this is why we're here. This is why we exist. This is why we exist as a community. Well-informed PC gamers and enthusiasts helping one another out. Get onto this platform. I want to saturate this platform with as many PC gamers as possible. Nothing wrong with consoles. If that's your forte, that's why they have a purpose. If you're unable to build, or you don't have the budget or the coin, it's just not for you, that's where consoles come into place. But if you want much more out of your experience, or much more, best bang for your buck, that's where it is. PC is where it's at, y'all. All right. That was, again, thanks for sharing. Thanks for sharing that, Cliff. I know we already did our closing shout outs, but we forgot Tricion, so let me give a quick round of applause for Tricion and all of the bots that decided to try to come in and spoil the fun. But it was good seeing you guys. I would like to see some of you make one of the live XE live streams. Channel members do get the first notification on when they are scheduled, just so I can try to make sure that it doesn't conflict with any of the masters or channel members who may want to come on board for that particular conversation. But even in once in a while, until we get more members, I will bring on legacy viewers and members in the audience who want to come up and share their thoughts on the particular topic or conversation. If you want an introductory to the format, then head over to the Live XE playlist and you can see episode 1. It didn't go off like as much as I would have liked, but that's because I use StreamYard for that, and it was my first time using StreamYard and their scheduler, so it got really weird. But nonetheless, it's still a good time, and I would love to see a lot of you there. But other than that, thanks for hanging out with us here doing this YouTube live stream. If you haven't seen the end credits, we'll bring up here. If you haven't seen the end credits, I welcome you to hang around for that. Okay, and I also hope to catch you all in the next one. So whether that's tomorrow or yesterday, like the name of the song, I'll be there, and I hope y'all will be too. But I'll catch you all in the next one. So until then, be easy.